All right, John, and thank you. Joining us to kick off the show today, Senator Dan Coats, Republican from Indiana, member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, will be here to talk about what he believes needs to be done to rein in Vladimir Putin. Then the Malzberg panel, host of the Christopher Hahn Show, Christopher Hahn, and National Review contributor A.J. Delgado. Jimmy LaSalvia, Republican strategist and co-founder and former executive director of GoProud. He'll be here to talk about everything that's going on in this crazy world of ours, including Michael Sam and the controversy with Tony Dungy. All that, give me five, and so much more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready, fire away.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. A busy day ahead here on the Steve Malzberg Show. I was very disappointed to see that the FAA extended its ban on flights to Israel from the U.S. For another 24 hours. As I was saying previously, if you were watching the back and forth between Ed Berliner and myself, I think that this is politically motivated on the part of the FAA. I don't know who pulls that string, who makes that decision. But certainly on the record, most government officials in Israel, including the very liberal to the left, Shimon Peres, the president of Israel, have all said that this is handing Hamas a victory. There's no need for this ban. Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, has flown to Israel on El Al. El Al is, I believe, although I believe, I know Lufthansa, Delta, US Air, and the others are not allowed to fly, but I don't know about El Al. But he flew on El Al yesterday, so I guess that the ban does not affect El Al. He called the airport in Israel, Ben Gurion, the safest airport in the world. He's probably right. And you know what? If the airlines are afraid of liability, then let every passenger that wants to fly to Israel and sign a waiver of liability. You know, why is it incumbent upon the FAA? The FAA could recommend, the U.S. government and State Department could recommend, don't travel to Israel, don't travel to the Middle East, but banning the flights, never once has the FAA banned flights to Israel before. And there's been a lot of conflict over there. There have been missiles there before. That's why I believe that it's happening under this president at this particular time. All right, Dan Coats ready to join us. But first, let's watch this very poignant, moving moment.
5 days since the crash, and families are still waiting. Memorials are withering, and funerals are stalled.
You don't care about the politics, right? This is not a political thing for you.
I care about my daughter. She wanted to go start her life, and it's gone.
For now, all he can do is wait. Facebook, his only way to express his sorrow and frustration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Putin, leaders of the separatists or the Ukraine government, for murdering my loved and only child. She has been shot out of the sky. Regards, Elzemik, father, whose life is ruined now.
All right, folks, and joining us now, Senator Dan Coats, Republican from Indiana, member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Hello, Senator.
Hello.
You know, when you hear and see something like that, it really reinforces what this is all about, that those were innocent civilians on that plane. You have made proposals, including a DOD appropriations bill, a proposal in that bill to sanction Russian arms deals, and also you've written extensively your suggestions on how to deal with this and how to deal with it with regard to Putin and Russia. So the bodies were, some of the bodies, there's still about 100 bodies still in that field somehow in body parts, but some of them were flown back to the Netherlands. Talk about what should be taking place as opposed to what is taking place.
Well, this is an incident that has shocked the world, and as we watch this unfold in terms of how they're dealing with the bodies, the fact that the Russians are complicit in this is virtually assured by all the intelligence that we have, and yet the Russians continue to deny any responsibility for all of this. And I think the world needs to come down with a condemnation so strong and so worldwide that even the Russian propaganda machine can't keep the Russians from understanding and knowing exactly what happened here. I have been very, very active in terms of proposing crippling sanctions on Russia unless they stand down immediately in Ukraine, unless they take responsibility. If you let them get away with this with just tough words and not action, then we're going to see more and more of this kind of thing as the Russian bear continues to take bigger and bigger bites out of Ukraine and other border countries that have achieved independence after the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Now, I want to talk about some of your solutions here, but 2 more planes shot down today. Reportedly, they were Ukrainian fighter jets or fighter planes shot down by the rebels, and bragging about it and saying this teaches you stay out of our skies. Again, obviously, Putin has not given any order to stop shooting planes.
No, he hasn't, and he hasn't given any order to stand down and take responsibility. And the reason is that he hears words, but he doesn't see actions. There have been minimal sanctions imposed on some of his cronies in terms of their banking rights and so forth and so on. But this is far too little. We need crippling sanctions, the threat of crippling sanctions, and the ability to impose those to cripple their economy. And when Putin sees that, it'll hopefully get his attention, because obviously any humanitarian plea, any decency plea, even any tough rhetoric about what we threaten to do has not moved Putin an inch.
All right,
so we've got to make it happen.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So tell us some of what we had Congressman Peter King on earlier in the week, and he said that we should, for starters, not let Aeroflot land in the U.S. or in European nations, and we should take the World Cup away from them in 2018. You go a lot further.
Oh, a lot further. I mean, yeah, I'm all for taking the World Cup. I proposed that weeks and weeks and weeks ago, but that was one of 10 measures. We have to go after their exports, their military exports. They derive a lot of revenue from selling weapons to bad guys all over the world. I have language in process here in 2 or 3 separate venues in the United States Senate that puts us in a position to deny their sales of military equipment to countries that we deal with, we no longer will deal with. That hurts the Russians' economy. And secondly, I've proposed a number of ways in which we can begin to wean Europe off their energy dependence on Russia. And I think even beginning to take those steps and announcing those steps will drive the message home that we are no longer going to be a long-term customer of yours, and over a period of time it's going to drastically hurt your economy. All of this, I think, would drop the Russian stock market. It would impose more economic damage to the fragile Russian economy. And these are just some of the things that we need to do. But we need to have the Europeans join us because they're recipients of a lot of the Russian export. And they've been somewhat tentative and reluctant to do it. I think Chancellor Merkel of Germany understands this, but she needs to convince her people that if you don't stand up now to this bully in the playground, he's going to keep being a bully, and you're going to pay a higher price for it in the future. And
you got France with that deal to sell Russia all those the military ships and all that. I mean, so they're some of them are carrying on business as usual.
Well, you would think Europe, given its history, under the thumb of the Third Reich, would see that this history is starting to be repeated, and you would think they would learn that lesson from history and basically say the earlier you address this, the earlier you stand up to it, the less consequence it will be in the future. So what the French have been very, very reluctant to announced that they were going to take the steps. They've announced that they'll threaten to do this, but this time is of the essence here, and we need to stop Putin before he goes any further.
Before we get to the border crisis here, let me just ask you. Of course, the FAA ban, that they instituted for 24 hours pending review. No flights into Israel, and many European nations followed suit. And many in Israel believe that this is punishing Israel and rewarding the terrorists. So let me ask you about the Aeroflot, the proposed Aeroflot ban by Peter King. Is that something you would favor too? Would that hit right at Russia? I mean, if we're willing to do that and the view of some reward Hamas and the threat of terror, how about, you know, not letting Aeroflot land until Putin does some of what we want him to do?
I think that's a good idea, and I think that should be one of a multiple number of sanctions that, again, hurt their economy and send a real strong message that the world will not tolerate what's happening here.
It's easy for me to say. Where are we, sir, on the border crisis? This, of course, has gotten off the front pages because of everything that's going on with Israel and Hamas and Putin and Ukraine and the plane. But this crisis is not going away. In fact, it's day by day. I'd imagine it's getting worse.
Well, there has been some limited progress, but not nearly enough. And what's AWOL here is a strong statement from the President of the United States that he will support a change and adjustment in the 2008 law that has set up a system here that allows these people to stay until the judge determines they have to go back. Well, there's 375,000 people lined up waiting to hear from a few judges, and that is driving the issue down in Central America that you get to the United States, it'll be 18 to 24 months before you go before a judge, and by that time nobody will be able to find you, so you don't show up. So I would love to send, the President needs to stand up and make a declarative statement that we're going to enforce the law the same way we do with the Canadians and the Mexicans who are on our border, and that is immediate return. And we're going to do that for these Central American nations. That requires a change in the law, and Congress should be ready to support that in a minute, but the President has to lead. And secondly, we need to get messages down to these Central American countries and the mothers of these children that they're sending up and paying life savings in order to turn them over to drug cartels and coyotes and other that are abusing their children on the 1,500-mile journey. We need to get down there with those governments and say we're going to do everything we can, and they're going to do everything they can to stop their people from believing the lies that are being sent to them.
Senator, you think they're going back? I'm sorry to interrupt. We have less than a minute. Do you think these kids who are here, and most of them are teenagers from what I'm reading, 15, 16, you think they're going back or no?
I think they have to. I think we have to enforce this, or the flood will continue to flow from south to north, because if they see that those that have come have been absorbed, they're going to say, yeah, that'll happen to us too. So you've got to go to the source of this and stop it and close that border before you can begin to address this problem.
Senator, thank you for your time, sir. Really appreciate
it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Senator Dan Coats, ladies and gentlemen, member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Back to the Russian situation. Threaten with the ability to impose crippling sanctions. I don't think this president has it in him. I don't think Europe has it in him. I really don't. I just think this will be forgotten about in 6 months to a year, and Putin will do his next thing and get away with it. The Malzberg panel is next. Don't go away.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. The pressure's too much. I quit. I get it. I can do better. Just please don't leave.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
The conflict was precipitated by Hamas from firing rockets. Number two, Israel has the right to defend itself against attacks from rockets and tunnels. At the same time, though, we do believe Israel can do more to avoid the types of civilian casualties that we've seen in recent days. We've been heartbroken at the loss of Palestinian life, the loss of children. So we do believe that Israel has to take greater care to avoid those types of civilian casualties. At the same time, we've been very troubled and disturbed and heartbroken by the loss of Israeli life since this ground incursion began. That's why we want to work for a ceasefire so that there can be an end to this violence.
All right, there you go, folks. Welcome to the Malzberg panel. Ben Rhodes, National Security Advisor. Israel needs to do more. Of course they do. And joining us on the panel, Christopher Hahn, the host of the Christopher Hahn Show, former senior aide to Senator Charles Schumer, and National Review contributor A.J. Delgado. All right, let me start with you, Christopher. Here we go again. It doesn't stop. Israel has to do more. You got all the former Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, chiming in, and she's talking about its disproportionate force. All the same baloney we hear time and time again, usually from people with a D next to their name.
Well, you won't hear that out of my old boss. I think we agree here in New York that Israel has the right to defend itself, and they need to do what they believe is right in defending themselves. And their foreign policy cannot be subordinate to our foreign policy, just as our foreign policy cannot be subordinate to theirs.
All right, fair enough. AJ, when will this administration stop treating Israel like the bad guy?
Never really. That's part and parcel of today's leftism. Is Israel is never in the right, it's always in the wrong. It apparently doesn't have a right to defend itself if you listen to some outlets. And even when it does defend itself accurately, we're told it's disproportionate, it's too much. When the problem and the cause of that isn't Israel's disproportionate reaction, it's the fact that Hamas stores rockets, builds tunnels, really pretty much everywhere all over Gaza. So of course you're going to have a response that's widespread. But it's always some line of criticism. If they defend themselves, it's done too much. And at the end of the day, they're never in the right. It's atrocious to watch.
Yeah, all right. I want you guys to hear something that Ben Stein said on this show yesterday. It involves the media and their bent, their tilt, whatever you want to call it, and he went further than calling it that. Give a listen to this.
Well, I think it's even more basic than that, I'm really sorry to say. I think there's just a certain amount of Jew hatred in the media, especially in the elite media. There's just, we've moved from right-wing anti-Semitism to left-wing anti-Semitism, and of course they try to pretend it's not anti-Semitism, it's really anti-Israel, but it's really anti-Semitism.
What about it, AJ? You agree?
You know, I gotta say, I have witnessed in the past few years that fascinating and a disturbing way trend towards the widespread anti-Semitism on the left. I'm not sure what the cause is. I think part of it stems from perhaps some sort of hatred of Israel, or is it the other way around? We're not sure what has caused it, but it's there, it's active, and it's very loud, and it's what's leading many voices, unfortunately, to feel that Israel is, as we said earlier, acting disproportionately or is always in the wrong. There is that tiny bit of anti-Semitism, I think, on the left that's fueling that narrative.
Christopher, what about specific to the media?
Yeah, I don't believe that there is a widespread anti-Semitism in the media. That doesn't mean that there isn't some, but I don't believe that there's a conspiracy in the media that is anti-Jewish Jewish. In fact, I think that most stories you see about Israel tend to be positive. I mean, granted, in this conflict, there's been a lot of focus on victims, civilian victims in Gaza. And there hasn't been enough attention paid to the fact that Israel has to live under this Iron Dome with threats of rocket launches every day coming out of Hamas. But I don't believe that there's a widespread anti-Semitism in the media.
All right, let me ask you about this
Chris. I don't
plane.
think it's in the media. It's more in academia
Okay.
than far left, not in the media.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you about this FAA ruling that was extended again today for another 24 hours, where U.S. planes are forbidden to fly to Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. And you also have Air Canada, Lufthansa, German Wings, Air France, U.S. Airways. Well, I got the U.S. ones there. Brussels, Scandinavian Airlines, right on down the line. So let me ask you, to me, Christopher, I believe that this is kind of a dig at Israel from our government through the FAA, because never before has this ever happened. You got people as far to the left as Shimon Peres saying that this is just handing a victory to Hamas, that there's no reason for it. And you got El Al still flying, and you got planes flying around Israel. So why would the FAA elect to do this?
You know, I think that they're being overly cautious, but I think that we'd rather than be overly cautious than have a plane go down like it did in Ukraine. I think if the Ukrainian incident had never happened, we wouldn't be dealing with this right now. And I think that sometimes you have better, if one person in the administration is urging that this happen, in the FAA is urging that there be a halt to flights to Israel, you're going to see panic on everybody in the political class to go with that, just in case something happens down the line. They don't want to be the one who overruled, even a bureaucrat's decision to kind of halt these flights.
So now, AJ, anytime Hamas decides they want to close down Israel's economy and airport, all they got to do is start firing some missiles.
True. I mean, that's the conundrum we face. I completely agree with Chris that what we have here is probably just an overabundance of caution, especially in light of what happened in Ukraine. If that hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't have this result. At the same time, however, what kind of precedence does this set? As you say, are we going to halt flights each and every time there's a problem, especially when you can just issue a travel advisory? That's where I get stuck. Why wouldn't they just issue a travel advisory? Then, hey, we warned you, if you want to take the chance and fly, it's on you. It's certainly, even from a liberty aspect, if folks want to fly, they should be able to fly and undertake that risk. It does seem like a bit
I
of a
agree.
dig.
I agree. They could sign a waiver, and anybody who wants to fly at their own risk should be allowed to fly at their own risk, I believe. And if a pilot wants to fly, then he could fly, and then you got no liability involved whatsoever. And again, I'm glad that Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, got on an El Al airline last night and flew to Israel to show how safe it really is. All right, folks, we got a lot more to talk about when we come back on part 2 of the Malzberg panel. You want to weigh in on social media, you can. So we'll be back right after this break, but also stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. To save our health care, let's follow these principles. Our health is the most personal thing we possess. Its care must be under our control. Bureaucracy must be prevented from discouraging choice and innovation. Large-scale change shouldn't be imposed from the top down because you have the right to choose what's best for you. Your personal medical information should be your property, period. States should have the flexibility to develop their own options. You should be free to buy coverage consistent with your moral and religious beliefs. Physicians deserve to practice without the fear of frivolous lawsuits. Join me. Save our health care. Please sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website. Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our health care.
Save our health care. Sign the petition today.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The following is an important message for all men. Are you urinating more frequently? Do you wake up to urinate? Are you having a slower, weaker stream? By 50, half of all men already have a prostate issue, and it only gets worse with age. Don't ignore the warning signs of an aging prostate. Call or go online in the next 10 minutes and we'll ship you a free 30-day supply of Super Beta Prostate, the best-selling non-prescription formula for prostate support. Super Beta Prostate is guaranteed to support a more complete emptying of your bladder, a fuller, stronger stream, and less waking at night to urinate. Super Beta Prostate has a trusted 10-year history in prostate care, having shipped over 6 million bottles.
I've gotten used to getting up multiple times a night, and I kind of adapted to that, you might say. I thought that was maybe normal. Once I started taking Super Beta, now it's down to 0.
Now with Super Beta, I find that I can comfortably get to my destination without the concern of this uncontrollable urge to want to use the bathroom.
Super Beta Prostate is a product that I really like. I endorse it. I use it myself. I have done the research on the ingredients. I was very pleasantly surprised that Super Beta Prostate helped me fairly quickly.
Super Beta Prostate is available without a prescription. It's formulated with a special and natural plant enzyme called beta-cytosterol, which was shown in multiple clinical studies to support healthy prostate function. Super Beta Prostate is so powerful, you'd have to take 100 saw palmetto pills to get the same sterols as just one Super Beta Prostate tablet. So don't ignore the warning signs of your aging prostate. Get your free bottle of Super Beta Prostate today. Due to extremely limited supplies, only one free bottle per household. Call right now to get your free bottle while it's still free. Go to superbeta.com or call 800-494-2084. 800-494-2084. 800-494-2084.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page and here's your Newsmax Now update. Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 has brought all eyes on Ukraine and their neighbour Russia. The investigation into the down Malaysia passenger jet that crashed in rebel-held eastern Ukraine has been passed off today. Ukraine's Prime Minister announced today that his government is handling the investigation to the Dutch. Of the 298 passengers killed in the crash, 103 were incidentally Dutch. Meanwhile, Russia and the separatists they support are pressed to allow for an open investigation. And while political tensions continue to climb, disagreements turned physical in a Ukrainian parliament meeting today. Blows were exchanged between dissenting lawmakers after the chamber voted to remove a communist leader from the session. Nationalists are accusing the communists of supporting terrorist activity in the country. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, we're back, part 2 of the Malzberg panel with Christopher Hahn and A.J. Delgado. And let me ask you about this investigation by the GAO, which went with forged applications to sign up for Obamacare. And 11 of 18 attempts, according to the report from the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office, fake applicants were able to get subsidized insurance on 11 of 18 attempts, and I think I have even more damning numbers that they were even more successful in just signing up with fraudulent documents. So here we have, Christopher, another example of government running a program just flawlessly, no?
Well, look, if people want to cheat the system, they're going to be able to cheat the system, whether it's this program or any other program. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's horrible if people could sign up with forged documents, but I don't think that there's anything that any program under the sun can do. I don't think this is unique to Obamacare. I think this happens all over the place, and I think one of the challenges for government is to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. And when a new program starts up, you're going to see new ways of people cheating it, and it takes time for people to catch on to that and figure out. And this report's good because it points out some of the weaknesses in the verification process that can be addressed now.
AJ, I do have more damning numbers than the 11 of 18 attempts at subsidies. 11 of 12 fake online or telephone applications were approved. 5 of 6 phone applications were successful. I mean, these aren't just 1 out of every 10 or so. We're talking about almost everybody. Almost all attempts at fraudulent signups and subsidies were successful.
Right. It's the proportion version of fraud that Obamacare seems to be indulging. Sure, you have a Medicaid application here and there that's fraudulent. The problem is with Obamacare, we've seen errors since day one with the taxpayer-funded website to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars that can't seem to work well even now, allowing this type of fraud to happen. And you have taxpayer-funded subsidies that these people are qualifying for when they shouldn't be. I know that this latest story that you referenced, these individuals that were applying were even able to lie in some cases about their income and qualify for subsidies that they're not supposed to qualify for. So it's a matter of fraud and it's a matter of fairness because it's something that we are paying the bill for.
Yeah, very much so. We are paying the bill for it. All right, let's move on to President Obama with his 3-day West Coast fundraising tour. You know, he said something very interesting in Seattle yesterday, according to Politico. He talked about how he doesn't watch much news on television because most of the things they talk about, he already knows. And Jon Stewart, and we have one of my Gimme Fives at the end of the hour is about this. And Jon Stewart played a montage of Obama telling the world that scandal after scandal he found out about by watching it on TV, on the news. So, Christopher, what's he talking about that he hardly watches the news because he knows everything already?
Well, he said he hardly watches the news. He didn't say he didn't.
Only for the IRS and the plane flying over New York and all those scandals, right?
Most elected officials get news clippings, and from their staffs, because especially when you're a national office holder, you're reading papers from all over the country. Look, I mean it's very funny. I mean, whatever. I'm sure he watches some news. I'm sure he doesn't watch it as much as he has to, and I'm sure now he's been president for 6 years. And most of the news is just openly critical of him all the time. He probably would rather not watch it.
AJ?
I gotta agree with Chris on this. As he said, presidents usually are supplied what they need to know by staff members and news clippings or shown a video clip if necessary. But if he doesn't watch the news, I wish he would. He might be a little bit more informed about what the American public wants. But that's pretty standard for presidents. It's okay.
All right. Hey, guys, good talking to you both. Christopher Hahn, host of The Christopher Hahn Show, and AJ Delgado, National Review contributor. We'll have you back soon. Thank you very much. All right, folks.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Very interesting. And we will be back with Republican strategist and former executive director of Go Proud, Jimmy LaSalvia, and more of the Steve Malzberg Show after the break. But first, this hour's American Moment takes a look back at the fall of Saigon.
When Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, fell on the 30th of April, 1975, America's long conflict there may have ended, but it took decades for the nation to heal its wounds. In 1973, President Nixon orchestrated the Paris Peace Accords, bringing to an end America's involvement in the Vietnam War. America's POWs returned home and all seemed well until March of 1975. When Senator Ted Kennedy led Congress in cutting off all aid to South Vietnam. Within weeks, communist North Vietnam reneged on the peace accords and invaded their neighbors to the south. Without U.S. support, South Vietnam fell to the communists, and throughout South Vietnam, a bloodbath ensued as hundreds of thousands of South Vietnamese who had backed the U.S. were massacred. Empowered by the events in Vietnam, communists in Laos and Cambodia soon toppled their pro-Western regimes, and Southeast Asia became a killing field, with the genocide of an additional 2 million people. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh yes, and that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. If you're on Medicare and have knee pain, don't wait. You may qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost. Call the Health Hotline right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Friendly agents are standing by 24/7 to help you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. You may be eligible to receive these items and more at little or no cost to you as well. Call right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Please remember this number, 877-530-9847. Our friendly representatives are standing by now to take your call. Please call us right now at 877-530-9847.
35 years ago, fly the Atlantic. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Is Israel's response not disproportionate here?
Are you kidding me? If 1,000 missiles were shot on your home and on your family like they were this morning, would you be talking about the proportional? The only difference between us and Hamas in Gaza, that we see right now, the only difference between us and Hamas in Gaza is that they are deliberately sending their women and children to stand next to missile launchers in order for them to get killed, and then they can cry to the world that they're being killed. This is cynical and cowardly. Your question is not appropriate.
All right. Well, unfortunately, it's a question that I believe not only that reporter and other reporters believe, but I think many in our State Department and maybe in our White House believe the same thing. Joining us now is Jim LaSalvia, Republican strategist and co-founder and former executive director of Go Proud. I always say GOP. Right. You know what? Because it's always GOP Proud. But anyway, good to see you.
Nice to see you in person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. We've talked so many times.
Yeah.
This disproportionality. Israel's overreacting. Obama saying Israel's done enough damage to Hamas. Now we need a ceasefire. I mean, who but Israel could decide? And what is disproportionate about trying to root out terrorists?
Well, exactly. I think too many people have forgotten, and especially this White House, have forgotten what the war on terror is. And, you know, terrorists kill people. And these terrorists, Hamas, are killing their own people to make a point in the world. And that's just, we had a fundamental change in how we look at things like this, and
we did have a fundamental change, yeah.
And some people have forgotten that, or maybe they didn't learn it to begin with. But that's what's happening here. They just don't. It baffles me when I see this White House and Democrats in general. They have an inability to figure out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is continually.
They've turned
all
the
over
Middle
the
East
world.
upside down. It's all over the world, but especially in the Middle East. And you know, Madeleine Albright was on one of the shows yesterday saying again disproportionate. And you hear it from Kerry. And Kerry's reaction on that open mic on Fox, where he said some pinpoint program, and then when he was on camera, he blasted Hamas. But we know what he really thinks.
Right. Well, and let's not forget, it was just, 18 months ago that Kerry took office, and his #1 priority was peace in the Middle East. And what's happened, it's certainly gotten worse, hasn't it?
It certainly has. How does Hillary, it's been interesting, how does Hillary, who gave Russia the starting reset button, who, was Secretary of State for the first 4 years during failed talks in the Middle East, and I'm not saying it's easy, how does she separate herself from the whole foreign policy chaos of Obama?
Well, I think she's going to try to make the case that she was the only thing holding it together and that it all broke loose when she left. Because, it has been the last year that so many of these issues have risen up. And the question is, will she be able to make that case? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think that's definitely her strategy. She's going to say, I was the sane one there for 4 years, and when I left, it all went to hell.
Dealing with Putin, you know, we had Senator Coates on earlier, and he's looking for really sanctions, severe sanctions, or the threat of severe sanctions that could be followed by actually implementing those sanctions. Yet you have a president who, you know, has these targeted, pinpoint sanctions, if you will, says it's a European affair mostly. And Putin, I mean, he's got to be laughing all the way to wherever he laughs to.
Right. Well, I think, again, there's a fundamental misunderstanding in the White House. Putin, I don't think it takes a genius to realize his ultimate goal is to get the band back together and reconstitute in some form the Soviet Union. And certainly Ukraine is an important piece of this. And so, you know, I can't fathom how the Obama administration would be comfortable with him being the American president that let that happen when so many people worked for so long, so hard to destroy the Soviet Union. But that appears to be what's happening. And again, figure out who the good guys and the bad guys are. Russia can't invade Ukraine without international backlash, so they're going to do the thing by arming and training and coordinating the rebels. Yeah. So we ought to be in there on the other side, arming and training and coordinating, and Europe has to be there too.
Absolutely. We've only given the Ukrainian military rations. We've given them hardly any military hardware.
Well, in France, for instance,
well, France, they're the worst.
They're still selling Russia arms.
Yes.
You know, that's got to come to an end, and we've got to get back to a Cold War mentality because, you know, the politics aside, you know, the policy here is threatening to the world.
And 295 dead civilians. Yeah. And you know, we watched today as the procession of the bodies that were brought back to the Netherlands, knowing full well that those bodies were treated like garbage for days in the heat. And there's still 90 or so bodies in that field, body parts. I mean, and 2 more planes, albeit the military planes, were shot down today. So Putin didn't even give the order to the rebels, hey, cool it for a while.
Right, exactly, because he wants to get in there and take over Ukraine. That's the goal. It's not public relations for him. But I do have to say, you know, we all watched that emotional homecoming for those bodies in the Netherlands, and I thought it was really great that the Dutch government really militarized that ceremony welcoming home, because it at least acknowledges that this was an act of war and not an accident.
You listen to what you bring up, act of war. You listen to what Ronald Reagan said when the Korean airliner was shot down by the Soviets, and just what a difference. A president who managed 30 seconds at a planned event to talk about it, 30 seconds, then went back to the planned event. Much like Fort Hood, he took 2 minutes before he mentioned Fort Hood and then continued with his planned event. And then he goes on the fundraiser. And he's going out to California again today. I mean, they plan everything. You know that. Right. He is the photo op president. Right. And not to go to the border. And not to care what anybody says about what he's doing or how it looks. He doesn't care anymore, does he?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't act like he wants his job, for one. But, you know, everyone knows that the president's always working, and everybody knows that there are things that he does that aren't on his public schedule. But I can't figure out why the White House staff hasn't decided to put more things on his public schedule to show
symbolic things,
exactly that he's doing something. So here we have at the border desperate, poor children being sheltered in squalor, and he's on his way to Martha's Vineyard in a couple of weeks. And you know, that can't help his base, can it? It doesn't. I don't see anything political that they're trying to do with their messaging here. It's just like, I don't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care, and that's it. He's not running anymore, and I guess he feels he has nothing to lose. Unfortunately, we have 2 more years, 2.5 more years of this president. Now, let's look ahead to November of this year. Taking back the Senate won't necessarily stop him, but it certainly will help. Are you confident or hopeful that this will happen?
Well, I think we'll see. You know, certainly last night we had a primary in Georgia, and the stage is set. in Georgia, and that's one of the only chances the
Democrats
Democrats
need
will
to
have
win in Georgia to have a chance to
flip
keep
a
the
seat. But I have to say, I was kind of struck by something this morning when I woke up and I saw that Perdue had won the Republican primary, and he's going up against a nun. And
he beat Kingston, the congressman.
Right. He's going up against Sam Nunn's daughter in that race. And then also in Georgia, you have Jason Carter, who is the Democrat candidate for governor. And I'm just thinking, gosh, you know, has inherited political power gotten out of hand
You
here?
can't be talking about the Bushes and the Clintons, can you?
Or Rand Paul. I mean, it's just like, I know that it's not what you know, it's who you know in any business, and blood is thicker than water, but I'll tell you, the inherited political power that's gotten out of hand in this country is certainly not what our founders wanted. I mean, maybe we should just move to a monarchy and do it honestly, you know?
Well, one other issue quickly before we go. We got about 2 minutes, and that's Michael Sam.
Yeah.
Tony Dungy, who black coach, won the Super Bowl, said that he would not have drafted Michael Sam. But he's under criticism now because of that, combined with the fact that he protected or said he welcomed back into the league the man who killed dogs, of course, and whose name escapes me. Michael Vick, thank you very much, and who's now with the Jets, unfortunately or unfortunately. Dungy said it's a distraction. To me, Sam says, I don't want to be known as the gay player. But he's doing everything he can to be known as the gay player, for financial gain and otherwise.
But look. For Dungy, fortunately, there was somebody before him that wasn't worried about the media circus and hiring a black coach.
As an African-American, yeah.
You know, same thing with African-American players. I mean, there's nothing you can do to not make this a media story. And I think Michael Sam is certainly embracing it and using it for good. But I think that, like I said, Dungy's certainly lucky that somebody else went before him
broke down the barrier.
And I think that that's what's happening here. And anytime that happens, it's not always comfortable for everybody.
Jimmy, great to see you. Come back.
To see you.
Come back as often as you want. All right, Jimmy LaSalvia, ladies and gentlemen, co-founder and former executive director of Go Proud. I got it right. I know I get it right one of these years. Anyway, when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, it's Gimme 5 time, and you won't want to miss this one, I promise you. Coming up next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Tired of faded bumpers, foggy headlights, weathered, sun-damaged vehicles? You've spent time and money applying product again and again to hide those embarrassing parts on your car, only to have that work fade away. Not anymore. Introducing Wipe New, the world's longest-lasting solution for restoring and protecting your vehicle. And we guarantee it to last for years. Just apply Wipe New once. It's quick and easy to do. Just one swipe and watch your car turn showroom new.
I've been a professional auto detailer for 30 years. Now I restore faded plastic rather than just clean it. And I do it in no time at all. I apply Wipe New to bumpers, side panels, even dashes and interior plastic. Simply apply it once and it lasts for years. Wipe New is the most revolutionary car care product that I've used in my entire detailing career.
We applied Wipe New to the driver's side of this vehicle. We then sent this car through over 100 powerful car washes. Wipe New never faded or washed away, proving that the results will last for years of real-world environmental exposure.
I don't think I've ever seen it, Brando. I got it about 2 years old, and I've never seen it shine like this.
And we guarantee it to last for years. Use it on bumpers, decorative outside panels, side view mirrors, even vinyl or leather car seats for a protected showroom new shine. Don't spend a fortune on temporary fixes. Order the revolutionary Wipe New for only $19.99. But wait, order now and we'll double the size. That's enough for 2 cars. There's still more. Order now and get the Pro Detailing Kit with the headlight applicator bonus. Just pay separate shipping and processing. That's right, Wipe New restores your headlights too. Order now and get it all, plus a 2-year guarantee. A $50 value for only $19.99. Order now.
To get your Wipe New detailing kit, call 1-800-408-5381. That's 1-800-408-5381. Wipe New comes with a 2-year money-back guarantee, so call 1-800-408-5381 today.
All right, folks, welcome to Give Me 5. Quite an uproar over the remarks made by former NFL head coach Tony Dungy, African-American, a man who has made his religious beliefs known, saying he would not draft Michael Sam, the openly gay college athlete, football player who came out before the draft. And here's his updated statement. What I was asked about was my philosophy of drafting, a philosophy that was developed over the years, which was to minimize distractions for my teams. I did not believe Michael's sexual orientation will be a distraction to his teammates. Philosophy of drafting, a philosophy that was developed over the years, which was to minimize distractions for my teams. I did not believe. Fortunately, we're all seeing this play out and I feel badly that my remarks played a role in the distraction. I wish Michael Sam nothing but the best in his quest to become a star in the NFL, etc. Now, this was a topic of discussion on ESPN. Watch.
I'm really disgusted at all the hoopla and the noise that has been made because of Tony Dungy's comments. I don't find them remotely controversial. I want to be very, very clear about that. I know that people might sit there and look at me like I'm insane. Get over it.
Get over it. Stephen A. Smith. Love listening to Stephen A. Smith. Here's some more.
He is known to be a devout Christian. He is known to be walking in the faith, as they say. He is known to be that kind of individual, and he has been against same-sex marriages, and I think he once received an award in 2007 for such a thing. So that's consistent with who he has been. But if you don't go the religious route, and you choose not to go the religious route, and you just go based on his quote, he is saying that essentially it would be a distraction.
Yes, okay, that's what he's saying. And it is a distraction. It's a distraction, and a lot of it is brought on by Michael Sam, I believe, for labeling himself as the first openly gay NFL player, while at the same time saying, I don't want to be known that way. But that's another issue. Here's some more.
Regardless of how egregious it may be, regardless of how wrong and wrong-sided it may be in the eyes of various people throughout this nation and throughout this world, somebody going to jail for a dogfighting scandal, serving his time, getting out of prison, and being in an NFL locker room is not necessarily something that's going to cause a distraction in the eyes of players compared to somebody that is gay in a locker room.
Now, what's he talking about dogfighting? The conversation here, he was debating Skip Bayless of ESPN, and Skip Bayless said Tony Dungy supported Michael Vick's return. And how could he support Michael Vick's return? Wasn't that a distraction? I mean, what a distraction. And Stephen A. Smith is saying there's no side of an issue with Michael Vick. He was a criminal. He was convicted. He went to jail. He served his time. He came back. You ask a player, what do you think of Michael Vick? What are they going to say? He was a criminal. He deserved to go to jail, and now he's back. That's the only controversy, okay? Whether or not he should be playing is another story. But with Michael Sam, you ask a player, well, what do you think of Michael Sam in your locker room? Anything anybody says, with the exception of, I love him. I wish everybody that was gay would open up. Any other answer is going to be controversial. What, are you a homophobe? You got a problem? Are you religious? Are you? So that's what and Skip Bayless couldn't see the difference between Michael Sam in the locker room and Michael Vick in the locker room. And there's an obvious difference. I agree with Stephen A. Smith. Here's one more.
Me personally, I'm like, live and let live. Do what you do. I don't believe that anybody should be ostracized. I don't believe anybody should be violated, denied their civil liberties and their civil rights. I don't believe in any of that. I am a proponent of most of the causes the gay community has fought for. And I think that it's wrong how they've been prejudiced against. But having said all of that, I think it's important to recognize that that doesn't mean that people have a right to be comfortable with you.
Right. People don't have a right to be comfortable with you. What I think he was saying is Michael Sam doesn't have a right to expect that everybody will be comfortable with him, with Michael Sam, is what Stephen A. Smith was saying there. And it's true. And it's going to be very interesting. Don't forget, Sam wanted to bring a camera and tape a series for Oprah during training camp, and he had to be stopped. On the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax Now update after this.
Smile.
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you... Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000... The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
As women, we always talk about how we should look or what's the best way to lose weight. But for me, it finally became all about how I feel. No tricks, just me. I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't want to see, the truth. I was 50 pounds overweight. That was a rough day. That's when I decided I had to lose weight. So I chose the only simple option for me, Nutrisystem.
Now you can lose weight even faster with the Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day My Way plan and we'll rush you the Fast 5 kit free. You'll get a week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes, and a free week of 21 delicious meals, and it's all free.
So why do I keep telling you about Nutrisystem? Because it works, and I know it'll work for you.
Call 877-271-DIET and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon earlier today. The United Nations is becoming more involved in brokering a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Earlier this week, Ban spoke in a joint conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he condemned the growing number of civilian deaths. After the meeting with Secretary Kerry, Ban also noted progress had been made in talks so far.
We are now joining our forces and strength to make a ceasefire as soon as possible.
650 Palestinians and 30 Israelis have lost their lives in the conflict so far. Fighting between Israeli military forces and Hamas militants in Gaza enters its 3rd week. Kerry says further progress was made after his meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Many in Gaza continue to struggle as the fight between Israel and Hamas rages on. Gaza City residents looked through rubble and debris for survivors after heavy Israeli artillery fire hit the area overnight. Israeli planes dropped leaflets over targeted areas in Gaza last week, warning residents to evacuate the area. However, many families opted to remain in the city. The fighting has made shelter hard to find for many Palestinians in Gaza. However, one Greek Orthodox church is giving many a place of refuge. Families fleeing from the violence have also crowded into 70 schools throughout the city. The church's archbishop says the displaced Palestinians have nothing and that he is trying to help them as much as possible. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the unfolding crisis in Iraq as the Christians are persecuted and worse, of course. We'll talk about that with Brigitte Gabriel. We'll also take a look at Hamas, what they do, who they are. You're not going to want to miss that with the president of Act for America, also the author of They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam and How We Could Do It. Mark Krikorian, Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies. You also read him at National Review. We're going to talk about the latest on the border crisis, which has been pushed to the back pages just a little bit with all that's going on in the world. And then Tom Ridge, former Homeland Security Secretary and former governor of Pennsylvania. And we're going to talk about the threat posed by the Iranian regime to the U.S. national security interests and the greater Middle East as well, and the deteriorating situation in Iraq. All that, give me five and more on this second hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
There's an issue that I want to discuss with you, which is very, very troubling indeed. A couple days ago, yesterday, New Yorkers woke up and to two huge white flags up on the rafters of the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, there had been two American flags up there. What these white flags were apparently American flags that had been painted over white. I don't think they were the same flags that were just painted over. So flags were removed and white flags. What does white signify? Or what does a white flag signify? It signifies surrender. Okay? I heard John Miller, who used to be a reporter, used to work for CBS, used to be counterterrorism in LA, now he's counterterrorism here in New York. I respect him greatly, saying that, well, this was yesterday. They were going over security cameras to see who it might have been and blah, 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 and no terrorism is expected to be involved. You're telling me that someone went up, people went up to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge for hours to change the flags, and now we're going to look at the cameras to see what happened? How about stopping them? I know it was the middle of the night, but what's to stop them from lacing the bridge with explosives? Now, we know we had a little kid, who went by security weeks or months ago up to the top of the World Trade Center, the new World Trade Center. One security guard was sleeping, one he snuck in past. What's going on here with our security system? In New York City, at landmarks, at terror targets, the Brooklyn Bridge? Are you kidding me? We need answers. Who did this? Why? And we got to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Where is the president on this? This is a persecution of Christians who predate the Muslims by 600 years in the Middle East. These people in Mosul were there before there was Islam, in the same way that the Jews of Baghdad, who were about a third of the population in the late 40s, were expelled, who were there 1,000 years before that. This is the exclusivity of this kind of radicalism. Where's the president? He talked about how disrespectful we were to Muslims in many of his speeches. Where is he standing up for the Christian minorities in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Palestine, among other places in the West Bank, and now in Iraq?
Well, that's a darn good question, one we've been asking for a long time, and I know Brigitte Gabriel, our next guest, president of Act for America and author of They Must Be Stopped, Why We Must Defeat Radical Islam, and How We Could Do It. Brigitte, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, I want to start. We had a representative of the Iraqi Christians yesterday, and this is such a great tragedy. It's a genocide, really, and you know what's going on in Mosul and what's been going on throughout the Middle East, as described by Charles Krauthammer, and throughout parts of Africa for so long. And our president, I've never heard him say boo about the slaughter of Christians anywhere.
Nothing, and it is heartbreaking, Steve, especially for someone like me who comes from the Middle East, who's a Christian who's been persecuted simply because I was born into the Christian faith. That's how I ended up in America. This is something I detail in my book that goes back hundreds of years of persecution of Christians in the Middle East. And it is not only right now in Iraq, it's been happening for the Christians in Lebanon. Look at the Christians in the Palestinian territory. Since the Oslo Accord in Bethlehem, the cradle of Christianity. When the Oslo Accord was signed in 1993, Bethlehem used to be 80% Christians. Today, they are less than 6%. And that's in the holiest city for Christianity. Christians are being driven out of the Middle East by the Muslim majority. And America, as the superpower of the world, as the biggest Christian nation in the world, with a president that doesn't care, is not making any statement or taking a strong stand on the protection of Christians. And he has a lot of sway. I mean, look, especially in Iraq, America went and many people died, and we sent our military there. We spent billions of dollars. And now this is what's happening to the Christians in Iraq, and the story goes on for all throughout the Middle East.
Yeah, it really is disgusting. It really is, and it's incumbent upon this administration to speak out. It's also incumbent upon the Christian world to speak out. And to be quite honest, Brigitte, as I said to my guest yesterday, as I've said to Bill Donahue, the head of the Catholic League, etc., I just don't see the worldwide outrage over this. And why do we not hear more from Christian groups and really, you know, and sects, denominations all over the world? Why not?
This is a question I have been asking Steve over and over again. And I have to tell you, I even met with some pastors here in the United States, evangelical pastors who are pastors of churches that have a minimum of 5,000 members plus, one of those mega churches. And I said to them, why don't you stand up for the Christians? Look what's happening to the Christians, to the Coptic Christians in Egypt. And this goes back a few years ago, even before the Muslim Brotherhood took over Egypt, 4 years ago. And I said, you stand up for Israel. You know, I was actually speaking at a night to honor Israel, and I said, as much as the Christian community in the United States is gathered together to stand with the state of Israel, it is just as important that we don't forget about the Christians of the Middle East. And unfortunately, the Christian churches, especially the mega churches in America, are not sending missions to check on the Christians in the Middle East. If anybody is checking, it's actually the Catholic Church. But here's the problem. The Catholic Church and the Episcopalians have been very much influenced by the Palestinians with their talking points against, oh, Israel is the aggressor, you need to see what's happening to the Palestinians, and they are taking on the Palestinian cause. And that's why they're not really strongly coming out in condemning the Islamic treatment of Christians in the Middle East, because they are afraid of retaliation, considering they go there, they have outreach there, they have the mosques and the churches and the monasteries there, and they are afraid of Islamic retaliation against the nuns and the priests, which have been done in the past as well. I mean, look what the Muslims, the Palestinians, did to the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem during the 40-day siege of the Church of the Nativity. What did the Christian church do? Yeah. What did the Pope do? Nothing has been done.
Yeah. All right, let's quickly turn to Hamas here. And again, our government's reaction to the whole situation in Israel. The president and John Kerry insisting on a ceasefire when Israel has a lot more work to do. And the tactics of Hamas. We have reports from soldiers in the field calling home and saying they're using kids and babies as they come at us with rifles, or they're having kids shoot at us while they come at us at the same time. The world wants to remain blind to these tactics.
And they are tactics of war that the Palestinians have perfected over the last few decades. I, as a child, and you know my background, Steve, I was raised in a bomb shelter in Lebanon, and I personally was used as a human shield when our town fell in the hands of the Palestinians in 75, 76, back in Lebanon. They used to park their rocket launcher in front of my bomb shelter, where we were 3 families hiding in the bomb shelter, and we were 9 children. And they would park their cannon in front of our bomb shelter to launch rockets at Israel, and that's to the northern border of Israel back then, knowing that Israel is going to retaliate, and if we die, we will be the evening news, and we will create such backlash against Israel. I mean, my mother went out begging the Palestinian leader to move his cannon, telling him that we have 9 children in the bomb shelter, and he almost shot her for standing in front of him. This has been a tactic that has been used by the Palestinians and perfected for the last 30, 40 years. Yep. The world needs to understand that the Palestinians put their children in front of them. They hide behind their children. And Israel is fighting such a difficult war. And we cannot blame Israel for wanting to defend itself. And we must understand that the enemy that is now fighting Israel is such a dirty enemy, plays such dirty tricks. They don't care about their own children. Listen, they send their children to blow themselves up as suicide bombers. Right. But that's the reality of the enemy that we are dealing with. Not only in Israel. This is not only a Hamas-Israel problem. They have used these tactics also against us throughout the world in committing terrorist attacks.
Brigitte, I want you to hear, I want the people to hear you at a Heritage Foundation roundtable talking about Benghazi. You were answering this Muslim woman who asked a question. She brought the Muslim issue into it all. And you were brilliant because she talked about what about the good Muslims? And you went on and on. I want people to hear some of what you had to say.
When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant.
And then you talk about how it took 17 hijackers to do the damage they did on 9/11. That was just a brilliant analogy of an analysis of the situation, I should say, that I hadn't heard presented in that way ever before.
And that is a very important point, Steve, because I added also, look at the United States. On September 11th, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took only 19 hijackers to bring America down to its knees, kill almost 3,000 Americans, destroy the World Trade Center, and attack the Pentagon. The peaceful majority in the United States on that day were irrelevant. So this is why we must identify the enemy and throw political correctness in the garbage. Look what happened in New York today on the bridge. How did they climb up and hang a white flag? And whoever made it to the top of the bridge, if they can hang a flag, they can place a bomb.
That's exactly what I heard John Miller, who's in charge of terrorism in this city, who I have great respect for, say, you know, we're looking at the videos to see. Well, looking at the videos, we had a kid get up to the top of the World Trade Center. Now we have people climbing the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, spending hours up there. We're sitting ducks. Hey, Brigitte, thank you so much. Keep up the great work, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, and we want people to go to actforamerica.org and join us. Thank you.
Actforamerica.org, absolutely. Brigitte Gabriel, folks. She is quite a lady, quite a lady. All right, when we come back, the Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies and columnist for National Review, Mark Krikorian, will be here. Don't you go away on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Acne is a difficult skin condition.
As dermatologists, we've seen how devastating it can be.
When we created Proactive, there is nothing like it. Take control now and help prevent future breakouts before they start. That's what Proactive means.
Now we've taken it to a whole new level. New technology, more medicine, and nourishing skincare.
This is our best solution, loaded with everything you need to keep skin beautiful and luminous every day.
Welcome to the whole new world of Proactive Plus. Our exciting breakthrough combines smarter acne medicine with advanced skincare. Acne breakouts, dark marks, blotchy or irritated skin? All new Proactive Plus can give you complete control. It's our smartest, fastest, most effective solution ever.
I never thought my skin would look this good. It's just incredibly smooth. And now I have clear skin.
Other treatments can leave medicine on the skin, but our new Smart Target technology pulls medicine off the surface, putting 2 times more into pores where acne starts. And with Proactive Moisture Care, your skin is nurtured to a touchable, soft finish.
It makes your skin feel so smooth, so soft. It feels so good.
Prescriptions can cost you hundreds. But call in the next 4 minutes and get new Proactive Plus, not for $200, not even $100, but just $29.95. And today, shipping is free. Clear your breakouts and perfect your complexion.
So many of my patients struggle with big pores or dry skin or oily skin. With Proactive Plus, now you can have both clear and radiant skin.
I never did think my skin could look this good. It's actually really exciting.
Hurry, act fast for a free deluxe upgrade to also get 3 new skin perfecting extras at no additional charge. Call 1-800-358-9166 and get all this for just $29.95. And shipping is free. Results guaranteed or your money back. 1-800-358-9166.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
This morning, National Guard troops are on orders to mobilize, preparing to head to the southern border for what Texas Governor Rick Perry is calling Operation Strong Safety, with a hefty price tag of $12 million per month.
What we're asking the National Guard to do is to be a force multiplier, to be there as a partner with the law enforcement.
By next month, 1,000 National Guard troops will be there.
Okay, folks, there you go. A news report on the fact that Governor Perry sending National Guard troops to the border. Lots of people don't like that. Joining us now is the Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies and columnist for National Review, Mark Krikorian. Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good. Always good to talk to you, Mark. This 1,000 troop crew of the National Guard that Governor Perry is sending to the border, do they have any real authority to do anything?
I mean, the way the governor referred to them as a force multiplier is probably an accurate description, because they can't actually arrest anybody. They can detain illegal immigrants temporarily if they find them, but only the Border Patrol can arrest people. They can do a lot of good if they work with the Border Patrol. They can do surveillance, they can do transportation of illegal immigrants, they can do a lot of the, if you will, the back office work that Border Patrol agents are now doing, paperwork, all of that stuff, which is actually pulling huge numbers of agents off the line, so that they're making sandwiches and filling out paperwork instead of trying to keep illegal immigrants and smugglers out of the country. So it can help. There's no question that this can be useful. The question is, one, will the administration actually partner with the Texas National Guard and help them do good? And the second is that it's really only step one. There's all kinds of things the president himself is the only person who can do, because this flow in South Texas is a creation of the president's own non-enforcement policies. So at some point, you can have National Guard and Border Patrol agents stacked up like cordwood along the whole border. And if Obama is still president and is still basically just letting illegal immigrants into the country, it's not going to make any difference.
Right. And you talk about Obama, and you wrote a great piece hitting the boiling point over the border, where you talk about that tale of a frog allowing itself to be boiled to death if the temperatures raise slowly enough, and you talk about how that's probably not true, but the left and the right have both counted on us as Americans to allow that to happen with the border. And you also talk about President Obama and his quote-unquote prosecutorial discretion, which has basically eroded many of the laws involving illegal immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, prosecutorial discretion is a fancy way of saying that cops and law enforcement have a certain amount of flexibility. They have to. For instance, you know, if a policeman stops you for speeding and the car isn't stolen, there's no warrants for your arrest, checks out all that stuff. You have a toddler in the back who's crying because she needs to have her diaper changed. There's no dope in your car. The cop often will say, you know, please slow down, sir. I'm just going to give you a warning this time. That's prosecutorial discretion. You know, case by case, a cop using his own judgment. What the president has done is use that as a pretext for exempting whole classes of people from the immigration law. He has basically said, if you're a regular illegal alien who's inside the country and isn't a rapist or a murderer, you're home free.
Right, he's taken whole parts of the law. Yeah, he's taken whole parts of the law and said we're not going to enforce it, or we're going to change. We're going to enforce it this way, which to me is one of the also should be added onto the John Boehner lawsuit.
Yeah, clearly should be. I was actually, I mean, it still might be because that lawsuit hasn't been filed, but I don't know why the president's lawlessness on immigration, as well as other things like Obamacare and what have you, weren't in that lawsuit or talk of the lawsuit from the very beginning, because the president is basically saying Congress gets to write whatever they want in the law, and then I get to just pick and choose which laws I want to enforce, and I get to rewrite the ones I don't like. And that's dangerous way beyond just immigration policy.
All right, Mark, tell us what, and you got your finger on the pulse. It's been off the front pages for a few weeks now, and because of the Israeli situation, and now with, of course, the plane crash last week. What's happening with these, we call them kids, but I saw a report that most of these youngsters are 15, 16 years old, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the large majority are just teenagers. I mean, it's anybody under 18. So they're minors. There's no question about there being minors, but they're not children. Some of them are, but the vast majority of the children coming in are actually coming in as family units. They're coming in with family. And these special rules that exist for unaccompanied minors crossing the border simply don't apply to them. And the administration has been trying to make it look like the whole issue down there is, 8-year-olds wandering around in the desert alone. And there isn't very much of that, quite frankly. We're talking about teenage boys or younger kids coming with often single moms, sometimes whole families. That's a regular illegal immigration situation, not something that requires, special protections and special rules. President is hiding behind those rules, and the media, which is, predisposed to do what the president wants anyway, is feeding into that storyline about how this is just about cute little kids with teddy bears wandering aimlessly alone across the border. Nothing could be further from the truth.
All right, and are they still? We got a minute left. Are they still being flown all around the country, or is that lessened?
They're still letting them go. I mean, the number of people coming in seems to have dropped off a little bit. It's not clear that that's a permanent thing, and they are in fact just being given a summons to show up to court and being let go. And the Dallas paper just did a story. They went to immigration court yesterday. 20 of these unaccompanied minors were scheduled for hearings. Only 2 of them showed up.
Yeah. Well, now they're able to take their order to show up in court and get board a plane and fly anywhere they want. So good luck with that. Hey, Mark, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Mark Krikorian here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that this is still going on. And we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that, as Mark so correctly alluded to, these are not 8-year-olds for the most part who just came here with nobody. These are teenagers, and these are kids with a mom, and it's a bad situation. All right, stay tuned now for your Newsmax Now update right after this.
Is your property a jungle choked with overgrown saplings and brush? Take back your land with a DR Field and Brush Mower. Nothing stops the DR. Thick grass and weeds, out-of-control brush, briars, or canes, even 3-inch thick trees are no match for America's favorite brush mower. Lock it in and rip it up. Clear it out, clean it up, and rediscover the land you've lost. And with optional attachments, the self-propelled DR Field and Brush Mower converts into a finish mower, a snow thrower, a portable chipper, or a grater blade. It's a field and brush cutter and so much more.
Call 1-800-456-2023 for a free buyer's guide and DVD. You'll learn how you can try a DR at home for 6 months for as low as $58 a month and get free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last. Call 1-800-456-2023. Online at drfieldbrush.com.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. We have new developments on the conflict between Israel and Hamas militants in Gaza today. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this afternoon. The two discussed a potential ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. Kerry also met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas as well as UN Secretary Ban Ki-moon to get their take on the issue. Kerry says more work is needed, but notable progress has been made. And the death toll in the conflict continues to climb. Hundreds of mourners in Gaza gathered in the streets this morning to pay respects to 5 Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes. The bodies were wrapped in yellow and green flags representing Fatah and Hamas. Over 650 Palestinians and at least 30 Israelis have lost their lives so far. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. And Tom Ridge will join us in the next segment, the former Homeland Security Secretary. And we're going to talk about Iran and the threat that Iran poses to our national security. But first, there's a poll out, and it's a Rasmussen poll. And it shows that voters now see a more divided nation than 4 years ago. I'd like to know how that's possible, since Barack Obama was supposed to be the great uniter. Also, Republicans are much more enthusiastic about coming out to vote in 2014, which is the elections coming up in November. 67% of likely U.S. voters, 60 sats, 2/3, just right up 2/3, say America is more divided than it was 4 years ago. And We also have the fact that among voters who see more division or about the same of it, 35% believe that Barack Obama is to blame. 34% point the finger at Republicans. 23% say both are to blame. So here you got an overwhelming majority of Americans claiming that the country is more divided. That same amount, interestingly enough, just about 67%, has said in 2 other polls that the next presidential candidate has to have significantly different policies to run on in order to get elected. So, and of course, the constant numbers that the country is headed in the wrong direction. Now, CNN today was touting the fact that, whoa, you know, all this supposed Katrina moment that Obama had by not going to the border, it really hasn't affected his poll numbers much because they went from approval rating of 43 before all of that to 42%. So, hey, you know, much ado about nothing. That's the CNN poll. And by the way, I'd like to know how many participants were in that poll so we could tell the gals at The View, and they could put their stamp of approval, because you recall I did a Gimme 5 where they were lamenting the fact that one of the polls that they were discussing, they didn't believe the results. They weren't happy with it because they said that, oh yeah, this was, I don't remember what it was about, but only 500 people, no, only 1,400 people were polled. And for a poll, that's quite a lot, okay? But, you know, the women at The View, sometimes they don't understand that. They probably think, you know, most polls are 50 or 60,000 people, which, of course, it's more like 500 to 1,000 usually. But that's beside the point. Anyway, so, you know, bad numbers. Nobody wants to see a divided country. Nobody wants to see a country where people think you're headed in the wrong direction. Nobody wants to see a country where they pinpoint the President of the United States as being the divisive one and dividing the country. We would have loved to have seen a man who could have united us. We would have loved to have seen the man who said, there is no red, there is no blue, there's only purple. But when that man says, I will not negotiate, when that man says, you know, Republicans are your enemy to Hispanic voters, and the cops acted stupidly, and right on down the line, I'll bring a gun to a knife fight, you know, it's just not going to happen that that man is going to be the great uniter. It's just not going to happen. All right, folks, we'll be back with former Homeland Security Director Tom Ridge and more of the show, but here's Dr. Chauncey Crandall with some tips for lowering your blood pressure.
Hello, I'm back this week with this very important question. Is your doctor taking your blood pressure correctly? You may assume so, but a new study shows you may be wrong. According to this new research, doctors often cut corners when taking blood pressure and record readings that may be much too high. This is important information. First, if your blood pressure reading is wrong, you could be misdiagnosed with high blood pressure and put on powerful drugs for the rest of your life. You could also be denied health insurance, and your job may even be put in jeopardy. This is important information, so pay close attention. Number 1, is your doctor using the right size blood pressure cuff? Cuffs come in 2 different sizes, average and large, but too often only the average size cuff is even used, even on the person with a larger forearm. If the cuff is too tight, the reading will be too high. Number 2, is your blood pressure taken in both of your arms? Doctors are taught that this is not mandatory, but it should be. Even a small difference between the 2 pressure readings can mean you are at great risk of suffering from a stroke or even dying of heart disease. And number 3, is your blood pressure taken when you are seated on the examining table with your legs dangling in the air? If so, your reading may be 10 points too high. You should be seated in the chair with your feet on the floor and your legs apart and relaxed. Don't cross your legs at either the knees or the ankles. Remember, if your doctor doesn't take your blood pressure the correct way, you could be putting your health at risk. Many of you already have my book, The Simple Heart Cure. So if you do, you can read all about high blood pressure in Chapter 8. That's my health tip for this week. I'll see you next week with another important Heart Health Minute.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with his special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
Smile.
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
The first time I heard the word grandma, what? At my age? No way. But then you hold him in your arms, oh, and everything changes. This is my first grandchild, Stephen, and I want to be a part of his life for a long, long time. But you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself.
And now with Fast 5 from Nutrisystem, you can lose weight fast. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
Nutrisystem helps me do just that. I lost 50 pounds, and I feel great.
Order your 28-day My Way plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes to rev your metabolism, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes to crush those cravings, plus 1 week of meals absolutely free.
Grandma? Yeah, I can own that. I'm a grandma. Don't wait. Call Nutrisystem today.
Start losing weight today.
Call now, 877-316-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, while we're focused on a million other things, Iran still poses the biggest threat to our national security in the minds of many. And we're going to be joined very shortly by Tom Ridge, the first Homeland Security Secretary and former governor of Pennsylvania, who testified at a Senate briefing today as an expert witness talking about the dangers posed by Iran. Now, Iran has come up in recent days because the deadline for the U.S. and the I believe 6 countries to reach an agreement, the Iran and the other countries to reach an agreement on their nuclear program and how to squelch it, that deadline was not met and, in fact, was extended. And, in fact, sanctions were not added because the deadline was not met. Sanctions were taken away, flying in the face of what the president promised would happen if there was no agreement reached by the deadline back at the State of the Union, and from what the State Department had said subsequently to that announcement by the president at the State of the Union. So we have a situation right now where there's no deal, but Iran has more time and more time and more time. And at the same time, it's not only their nuclear threat. Iran is the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world. And Iran is behind Hezbollah, and Iran is a supporter of Hamas. And where do you think they get the rockets from, Hamas? Where do you think they get their military training from? This is to pretend that Iran isn't involved. So the U.S. reaches out to Iran. Obama wants to shake the hand of their president. That didn't work, so he calls them up. They held talks before they ever told the United States people that they were holding talks, before they ever notified Congress that they were holding talks. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, they come up with an agreement to talk and to meet, and the preliminary agreement, and then the deadline, which was not met. But all the while, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, when it comes to supporting and supplying weapons to Israel's enemies, Iraq has been killing Americans, killing Israelis directly and indirectly, and we reach out to them and we shake their hand and we pretend that, hey, these are good people, the government, the mullahs, the ayatollahs of Iran. Yes, in fact, the president, he's a moderate compared to the last one. A moderate. What does that mean? Nobody could become the president. Nobody could run to become the president of Iran without the Ayatollah's approval. So what kind of moderate do you think is actually going to be allowed to run for the presidency of Iran? This is a huge threat, and John Kerry actually had the nerve to say the other day, among other things, that Israel and the world is safer now because of what this administration has done with Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't think so, but you see, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's a moron. Israel faces the greatest immediate danger posed by a nuclear Iran, and we're seeing the kind of danger they face from a non-nuclear Iran, with the missiles that are flying into Israel every day. But John Kerry will assure us all that Israel is safer today because of the great work that this country has done with the great Islamic Republic of Iran. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why did President Obama want to reach out and shake the hand of the president of Iran when they had their last UN session several months ago, if you recall that? And that didn't work, so we called them on the phone. And then it turned out they had been talking all along, unbeknownst to us. Why? What's the motivation? They have American blood on their hands. They put many of the IEDs that have maimed and killed our soldiers. Not to mention what they've done going back. Our Marine on the tarmac. The hostage crisis. You name it. The biggest supporters of terror in the world, and Barack Obama reaches out to them, sits down with them, and says that they're doing a good job. They're transparent. They're making the right moves. They've cut their production. Do you believe that? Do you believe this from a White House that promised if you like your health care, you could keep it? From a White House that took Libya, kicked out Gaddafi, and now look who's running it? From a White House that supported the overthrow of Mubarak, loved the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood was in there, and when the repressive Muslim Brotherhood who insisted on Sharia law got kicked out and Sisi took over, we threatened to cut off their funding for the military. Benghazi? Do I have to tell you about Benghazi? Syria? Oh, they're gassing their own people. Cross the red line. Oh, I never said there was a red line. So who's in charge in Syria? What about the caliphate, which you can't deny now exists to a great extent? So now we're supposed to trust this administration that has helped forge all that I have just mentioned when they tell us that that Iran is now, you know, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Forget the fact that they are the biggest supporters of terror. Forget the fact they kill Americans. Forget the fact they're helping to destroy and kill Israelis. You know, we like sitting down with them. We like having lunch with them. We like shaking hands with them, because that's what Barack Obama does. And he does it with the wrong people. So while Iran is praised by our State Department and our administration, Israel, as recently as, you know, it's every day, but as recently as yesterday, was admonished by our National Security Director with Wolf Blitzer on CNN, who specifically said that Israel must do more to prevent civilian casualties. And he said it not once, but he said it over and over and over again. What's wrong with this picture? How did we go from a country attacked by terrorists in 2001, a country that recognized the axis of evil, including Iran, to a country that now befriends Iran and throws our biggest ally, the only democracy in the Middle East, under the bus? Not even under the bus. How about overboard? Forget throwing Israel under the bus. How about throwing them overboard? How do you like that one? How do you explain it? What's the reasoning behind it? You know, Jesse Jackson warned anybody who would listen prior to Obama being elected in 2008. Look it up. It's ingrained in my memory. I don't have the exact quote, but he was quoted in a New York Post column as saying, if Obama wins, Israel will no longer be the most influential country in the Middle East when it comes to U.S. foreign policy there. Something to that effect. And he's 100% right, obviously. Obviously. Because you don't hang around and befriend Rashid Khalidi. You don't hang around and befriend Bill Ayers. And you don't hang around and befriend Reverend Wright and become the man in charge and have any love, any affinity, any affection, any empathy for the state of Israel. Now, I know, the Iron Dome. I understand that. I understand that. But you know what? You help somebody, you give them, hey, we just gave $40 million, or we're in the process of giving $40 million plus to the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip. Not for weapons, not for tunnels, not for rockets, not for the evil Hamas government, for the people. For the people. Really? How's that going to work? You know where Yasser Arafat's ex-wife or widow lives, reportedly? As far as I know, she still does. In the most expensive suite in the most expensive hotel in Paris. Yeah. You know how many billions of bucks Yasser Arafat reportedly had stocked away while his people lived in the same squalor that the Palestinian people live in today? So we're going to give $45 million more now, this time to the Gaza Strip, for the people of Gaza. How on earth are the people of Gaza going to get it? Could you tell me? When Hamas is their government? I mean, we're not that naive as an administration, are we? We're not that dumb and stupid, are we? This is support for Hamas. This money will go to Hamas. How could we not know that? And how could we not know that Iran is the biggest threat posed to the United States' national security in the world? How could we not know that? And my answer is we have to know that. My answer is we do know that. So my question is, what provokes our administration, our president, to constantly reach out to our enemies and to either overthrow or undermine our traditional allies, especially in the Middle East? What is the reason? I ask, you answer. All right, folks. I guess Tom Ridge couldn't make it in. Hopefully we'll get him another time. We hope to do that here on the Steve Malzberg Show. But take heart, because up next is Gimme 5, and it's coming your way next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show, only on Newsmax Television. Don't go away.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just plug and protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
Summer's here, and now's the best time to get clear skin. That's why the amazing Proactive Plus has a totally new offer like never before. Order the faster, more effective Proactive Plus today. Get free shipping and 2 of our hottest customer favorites, worth $37 free. Our deep cleansing body wash, plus our best-selling dark spot corrector. It's your summer glow duo for sexy, summer-ready skin all over.
The body wash is amazing. Now I can wear tank tops, I can wear bathing suits. I just feel free now, like I can wear whatever I want.
And if you're dealing with dark marks, age spots, or even sun damage, you're going to love the dark spot corrector.
Since using the dark spot corrector, the dark spots that I'd had from acne, it's like going away. My skin looks amazing.
I would just put it wherever there was a blemish, and before I knew it, they faded.
You'll be astonished how quickly Proactive Plus can fix your skin. In fact, it clears blemishes 4 times faster than the leading topical prescription. And nourishing ingredients give your skin extra care.
And now that my skin's clear, I feel so sexy, so confident. It makes me want to show off how good my skin looks.
Acne medicine and skincare products can cost you hundreds. But call now and get Proactive Plus for only $39.95. And you get our amazing body wash, plus the incredible dark spot corrector, both free. Still not sure? Then we'll make this offer irresistible. Act fast and we'll knock $10 off. Just $29.95. And shipping is free.
Give it a try. Don't settle with being unhappy with your skin. Proactive Plus works.
Get all this, a $109 value for just $29.95. And if your skin isn't absolutely gorgeous, we'll send your money back, guaranteed. But call before this offer sells out. Call 1-800-397-8177. That's 1-800-397-8177.
Hardest restaurant to get into.
For you, anytime. Democratic Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi still recognizes the power and charm of retail politics.
How are you?
How are you?
I've been praying for you.
Thank you.
Tommy said you're getting better.
Yeah, well, the mortician told me the same thing. It's a part of her fabric that she admits was cultivated from an early age.
That's really what I learned in Baltimore, Maryland, at 245 Albemarle Street, Little Italy, is that you have to be on the ground.
All right, folks, welcome to Give Me 5. MSNBC Morning Joe did a big interview with Nancy Pelosi, but first, as described by Newsmax.com, Thomas Roberts did a sloppy, loving interview story with package, as they call it, with Nancy Pelosi. She goes back to Baltimore, where her father was once mayor. Watch.
Growing up the youngest of 6 and the only daughter of one of Baltimore's longest-serving mayors, Thomas D'Alessandro, as a young woman, her father's work would place her in the company of presidents like John Kennedy. But it was Pelosi's childhood, answering the door at her family home, trying to help the people who came to see her dad, that proved to be her political training ground. So you learned at a very early age on how to connect the dots?
Well, you know, it wasn't even thinking in terms of that. It was that people needed help, and therefore we wanted to tell them how to go about having that happen.
All right, so this is obviously a puff piece, a love piece. And what's interesting here is that Thomas Roberts' grandfather, I believe, great uncle, was an advisor to Nancy Pelosi's father when he was mayor. So that's what brought them together for this piece, I would imagine. And they named a street after Nancy. Watch.
And now it's not bad that there is a new sign on this street as well. What do you think about that? What do you think your dad would say about seeing Mrs. Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi?
He would be amused. He was really something quite special, my father, as well as my mother. But working with your uncle, they did a lot of great things.
All right, that little giggle. I don't know, we should put that giggle up against Hillary's laugh and have a contest or something, a poll one day. Then there was, I got the thumbs up in the control room for that. They like that idea. Then Nancy Pelosi here on another interview was asked about the perception of Obamacare. She says, in California, we love it. Watch.
Fabulous. California is great. We're so proud how it is working in California, and it's working in many other places in the country as well. So I think he has a great deal to be proud of, a person's temperament about how, I always quote Lincoln. Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. And actually, Ronald Reagan used to quote that of Lincoln. And so while I disagree with the characterization, if that's the impression people have, then communication has to be stepped up.
It's all about communication. You see, Obamacare is so wonderful. I just read today, there's another story we told you about earlier. Fraud. People are getting Obamacare and getting subsidies fraudulently. But that's okay, because the ones who are getting it fraudulently are happy, I guess, according to Nancy Pelosi, at least if they live in California. So, you know, it's just perception. Really, people love this. So when they tell the pollsters they don't love it, when they tell the pollsters they're against it, they just don't know what they're saying. See, if they were better informed, they'd all be happy like the people in California are about Obamacare. You following? People are too stupid to know that they're happy. Then she goes on another interview, and she talks about, this is the Colbert Report, I believe, and she talks about her middle-class jump start, whatever that is.
We will get to the fact that you're engaging in class warfare in just a moment. You just did it. You just fired a shot across my bow. You can't deny that. All right. How will you get it done, though? Because nothing gets done in Washington.
That's right.
Nothing gets done in Washington, Ryan. How can you possibly get this done? What are you going to use? Do you have naked photos of John Boehner doing something? How could you possibly get, because the Republicans... You got the mental image? You got the mental image?
I know.
And if you do, is the tan uniform?
All right, there you go. Making the rounds with Nancy Pelosi, ladies and gentlemen, from Baltimore, talking about California, now jump-starting the middle class. It's all just, you got to know what's in it before you pass it or after you pass it. On the Steve Malzberg Show.
Any flashlight can throw a beam, but not even this floodlight is bright enough to light up a room. Now there's the Torchlight from Bell & Howell, the high-tech portable light that's really big on brightness. Look, ordinary flashlights just have a narrow beam, but the Torchlight has a brighter, wider beam that brilliantly lights up the entire room. Even when the power goes out, you won't be left in the dark because its 28 ultra-bright LEDs give you over 100,000 hours of bright, reliable light. It's like having nature's own sunlight at your fingertips. Its high-powered magnetic base lets you securely attach it to any metal surface to give you a steady, bright light that brilliantly lights up your entire work area. It's like having an extra pair of hands. It's so powerful it can lift up to 2.5 pounds. And with its bright light, there's no easier way to quickly pick up dropped nails and screws. And look, the Torchlight is also a flashlight. Its 5 white LEDs give you a clear, bright light to easily see wherever you go. The sturdy base keeps the Torchlight in place exactly where you want it. And the articulating arm has 6 preset positions that let you tilt the light an incredible 180 degrees to give you total lighting coverage. Use it at your computer, as a table lamp, or to light up those dark, unlit areas. Better yet, with the built-in hook, you can hang it anywhere and rotate it 360 degrees to give you light wherever you need it. While its rugged construction makes it impact-resistant and weatherproof too. And now the Bell & Howell Torchlight is yours for just $10. But wait, call now and we'll double your order. That's 2 for the price of 1. Just pay separate processing and handling. Order your Torchlight now.
To order your Torchlight and receive a second one free, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0400. That's 1-800-936-0400.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here is your Newsmax Now update. Officials in Madison, Wisconsin say they have room to house hundreds of illegals. Our parent website, Newsmax.com, is reporting that federal governments asked the city of Madison to find shelter for some 250 undocumented children. Madison's mayor says the city has a couple properties available that can be immediately used to meet the government's request. In addition, a Catholic charities group says it can provide space for up to 300 unaccompanied minors. And the federal government is asking all cities with a population of 200,000 or more to find shelter for the influx of illegal immigrants crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. And Obamacare continues to create chaos and anxiety in Washington, on Main Street and in your doctor's office. This comes after one federal appeals court in D.C. ruled that subsidies in the Affordable Care Act that can help millions of people buy health insurance are illegal. But later in the day, a different appeals court in Richmond, Virginia, upheld those same subsidies. Regardless, the White House says they will appeal the decision and the subsidies will occur. And earlier today, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joined former Congressman J.D. Hayworth on America's Forum and had this to say about Obamacare.
What we're seeing repeatedly with Obamacare is President Obama, even though his allies wrote it, he signed it, this was his signature piece of legislation, he continues to make changes to the law. He does not have the executive authority. He doesn't have the constitutional authority to do so.
In the first ruling stating that subsidies are illegal sticks, healthcare premiums could increase by up to 76%. Now over to the Ukraine, where Ukrainian officials are confirming that 2 fighter jets were shot down today. The Ukrainian planes were providing air support for troops in eastern Ukraine when they were hit by missiles. This latest attack in aircraft comes from less than a week after downing the Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. Ukrainian security officials are now claiming the missiles that took down the planes today were launched from inside Russia. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, coming up on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show, columnist for the Washington Times, our friend, the one and the only Charlie Hurt will be here. And are we like Detroit? Is the whole country going crazy like Detroit? And then we're going to talk about, well, a great story. Kids who are helped by scholarships, private scholarships, and private schools. They take the scholarships and go to those private schools. I think you're going to enjoy this. Then a couple of doctors, Dr. Jane Orient and Dr. Betsy McCoy, one a PhD, and Dr. Orient, an MD, Director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. We're going to talk about the 2 rulings yesterday from 2 separate courts on Obamacare and what that means and some of the other problems and revelations about Obamacare that we found out about today. You got all that? Give me 5, my little sore throat, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back, and we kick off the final hour of the Wednesday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show with our friend Charles Hurt, columnist for the Washington Times. Hello, sir.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well. Glad to talk to you. Your piece today at the WashingtonTimes.com is the cost of free water in Detroit. And, you know, we really don't talk enough about this whole situation there, do we?
No, it's really amazing. And I lived out in Detroit for a couple of years. Worked for the newspaper out there, and you know, every time something, Detroit was famous for all of its firsts. Like it had the first, you know, obviously we were the home of the automobile. Had the first mega mall. Had what was one of the first fast food restaurants. One of the first drive-throughs. You know, and now of course, you know, it's always sort of been on the cutting edge. Now, of course, as the welfare is drying up and civilization is kind of slipping over the edge into pure chaos, Detroit is once again on the front lines, and you know, with the bankruptcy, I guess the end of last year, the city has had to kind of crack down on things, and one of the things they had to crack down on is this business of not billing residents for water. And now that they started, this is part of the bankruptcy proceedings, And now that they've started billing residents for water, residents are looking at they don't know what a water bill is. They're shocked to find out that they're supposed to pay for water. They cannot believe it. They're refusing to pay the bill. Then the water crew comes out and says, "Well, we're going to have to cut off your water if you don't pay your water bill." This is basic Econ 101, Home Ec 101, and these people they refuse. They've taken to the streets. The NAACP has filed a lawsuit accusing Detroit of discrimination, of racism, for trying to make the residents pay for the water they use.
And the United Nations Human Rights Commission has weighed in.
And the United Nations steps in. How crazy is that? They step in and declare it a humanitarian, a humanitarian crisis, and it's just and it's just so sad because of course all the people and all the policies that have led to this really sad situation. They're all the people who in politics claim to be, friend of the poor, friend of the working man, friend of minorities. What favors have they done for them except actually led them to believe for decades that you can actually get water for free and that it costs you nothing? And they have these picket signs that say things like, thirsty for justice and water is a human right. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy, Steve.
Well, next time you're in the supermarket and you want to buy a beverage or a bunch of beverages like seltzer or soda or Gatorade or whatever, just tell the manager there that, thirst quenching and liquid nourishment is a human right.
Yeah, absolutely. Just steal all the Dasani water you can find and just walk right out. And with utter indignation when someone stops you and asks, if you intend to pay for that.
By the way, I'm sorry, I was going to just say, it's not a human right at Yankee Stadium. I was there on Sunday for the Yankees and Reds. $5 a bottle of water, and it was a hot, sunny day.
Yeah, and God bless, I don't know if this is true, Yankee Stadium, at National Stadium, God bless capitalism, because I think there's 450 in the stadium, but walking into the stadium, there are always some smart people out there selling them ice cold for $2, and whenever the whole crew goes, we get our water there before we go into the stadium.
Yeah,
cuts our bill in half.
You go to ShopRite, you wait for the sale. You could get 3 cases of 25 Poland Springs for $9.99. So what a markup. Anyway, but that's
even better.
But that's capitalism, like you said. All right, this is something. I mean, this is all part of the culture of gimme of got the Obama phone, and remember that woman who has since recanted, but now Obama's the nominee. Now I'm not going to have to pay. He'll pay my mortgage. That whole culture.
But and going back to what you just said about getting the carton of water for $9, my goodness. What a sad thing it is to have been led away from that whole system. The system of free market and capitalism is really wonderful because it doesn't discriminate against anyone. Anyone can get into it, and anyone can benefit tremendously from it as long as something is expected. As long as you're expected to obey the rules. Yeah. And the benefits that it affords us, it's just extraordinary. And okay, we may not all become Bill Gates, but we're able to build a really wonderful life for ourselves. Man, if you are stuck on welfare for your entire life and your parents' entire life, and I mean, what a lost life! What a waste of an opportunity to take part in these extraordinary treasures and the sense of self-accomplishment that is just extraordinary. But this idea that dependency does anything other than cause people to be unhappy, cause them to be frustrated, cause them to feel entitled, and it basically destroys their lives. It's a real tragedy, and the people that are promoting it the most, the welfare hucksters, particularly in the Democratic Party, they really They're literally destroying people and their lives, destroying them.
Absolutely. All right, let's change gear a little bit here, actually quite a lot, and talk about the FAA flight ban to Israel. Michael Bloomberg, who I have big problems with on just about everything else, he flew on El Al yesterday, and he was there in Jerusalem today and talking with the mayor of Jerusalem about, on CNN about how safe it is. And I don't know. Why do I have suspicions that this is a political move on the part of this administration to punish Israel?
I don't know how you can view it any other way. Not only because politics is always just right at hand with this crowd, but also because what's the point of it? I mean, there is no point except that it just demoralizes Israel, and it basically cuts Israel off from the rest of the world. And the administration has been absolutely clear in its, I would argue, absolutely clear in its continued, the equivocation between Hamas, a terrorist group, and the Israeli government. It really is, it's terrifying, and it's terrifying to think that all the support that the United States has given to Israel over the years can just evaporate that quickly. I mean, why would anyone ever trust anything the United States of America has to say, or trust any sort of guarantees the United States makes, if this is what we do to, arguably one of our two most important strategic closest allies on the planet? I don't understand it.
Yeah. Barack Obama on his three-day fundraiser, and he was in Seattle last night, and according to Politico, he talked about how he doesn't watch much news because he already knows what they're saying. Yet
he knows everything.
That flies in the face, and Jon Stewart did a great job with it, even though Jon Stewart did a great job of documenting this before Obama said that. How he found out about the IRA scandal, how he found out about seizing the AP records, how he found out about the plane flying low over New York, Air Force One, to get a photo op. So here's a guy who says he usually knows everything before it's talked about on the news. Yet when it's scandal or bad for him, he just found out about it on the news.
Yeah, it must be sort of nice to have that, to be able to go both ways on that. But it also, doesn't it just sort of speak to the deep reflexive arrogance of this guy? Who says something like that? It's just insane. And the idea that, and I gather from people around him that really is his view of the world, is that he doesn't have anything to gain from anyone else. There's no reason for him to listen to other people. He's the president. He knows he's a constitutional law professor. He'd be happy to sit down and explain to the Supreme Court everything that they don't know. Clarence Thomas, tell him what he doesn't know. But it's just kind of staggering. I mean, I don't know any intelligent person or successful person who doesn't thrive on listening to other people. But this guy, that's not him. He already knows it all.
Yeah, very quickly, Tony Dungy under fire for what he said about Michael Salmon. Really all he said was, he wouldn't have drafted him. It would be a distraction. And then they're saying, well, he supported Michael Vick's return to the NFL. Wasn't that a distraction? I see a difference there, but what's your take on that?
Well, it's the third rail, more in media than anything. I don't even think it is in politics. It's just in the media. You're not allowed, if you do not walk in lockstep with the media on this issue about gays and gay marriage and all that kind of stuff, if you are one nanosecond out of step with the media on this,
yeah, you're in trouble.
You will be destroyed.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, always great, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Charles Hurt, ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Times. Up next, New York Post columnist and author Naomi Schaefer Riley, and a dancer with the New York City Ballet, Silas Farley. Wait till you hear his story. Coming up next.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope. You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
Visit phassociation.org to help provide hope for children with PH. Hope for Ian, Katie Grace, Maddie, and me, Lucas. The Pulmonary Hypertension Association, empowered by hope.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, education. And you know that is one major problem facing this country. Joining us now is a woman who has written a great book, a very uplifting book. We could all use some uplifting news every so often, and why not now? And joining us is Naomi Schaefer, Riley. She's a New York Post columnist and author of Opportunity and Hope, Transforming Children's Lives Through Scholarships. And one of the young men who has benefited through the scholarship program detailed in that book is with us as well, Silas Farley. And welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Naomi, talk about the book. Talk about the 10. I guess you follow 10 beneficiaries of the scholarships that you write about, and you give us their stories, and they're all great stories.
Yes, well, Steve, thanks. As you know, inner city education in America is in a horrendous state these days, and there are parents all over the country clamoring for alternatives, for ways to get out of our public school system. And scholarships for private schools are one of the major ways that this can happen. So I was fortunate to have the opportunity to go around the country and visit with some scholarship recipients from North Carolina, where Silas is from, all the way to San Francisco. And I heard some really inspirational stories about how these scholarships provided their parents the power to give them the education they deserve. And this is so problematic, as you mentioned, inner city schools especially, but the public school system in this country has needed total reform, in my view, for many, many years. Let's ask you, Silas, where did this scholarship enable you to go to school?
I am from a large family, the youngest of 7 children from North Carolina, and the public schools that we were zoned for in our hometown of Charlotte were some of the worst in the city, and my parents couldn't afford private school education, so they did the heroic task of homeschooling for many years. But when the scholarship fund became available to us, we were then sent to private Christian schools that were connected to our family's churches. So those were the best fit that my parents saw, where we could be both academically and spiritually nurtured.
And it worked, right?
Very much so.
What are you doing now?
I'm now a dancer with the New York City Ballet here in Manhattan.
All right, well, Naomi, how many kids benefit from the program that you have written about?
Well, the Children's Scholarship Fund has helped tens of thousands of children over the last more than a decade that it has been available. And CSF has partner programs across the country. But what we really need to do now is move from these private scholarship programs, which can only help so many kids. I mean, this is money coming from private donors, to a large-scale either voucher or tuition tax credit program where people can, get the kind of tax benefits they need to contribute to these programs on a statewide level. We need the DC voucher programs to be expanded. We need Florida's tax credit program to be expanded because there are so many children who are really waiting for these opportunities, and it is a scandal, the fact that we have kept them waiting so long.
Well, absolutely, and there's all kinds of objections, and one of the sad ironies in my view is one of the first things that President Obama did was deny so many black children the same opportunities that their siblings had by cutting off the DC voucher program, and where you had the poorest blacks in the worst schools in Washington, D.C., some of those kids going to private schools on that voucher program. He denied their siblings the same hope and opportunity, and you know what? The media, and unfortunately the Republicans too, they're basically silent on this.
Yeah, I mean, it is a real shame, and I have to say that, if people looked at the results, they would see that, Catholic schools, private schools generally give these kids higher graduation rates, better achievement, a better chance of going to college, and a better chance of, getting a job afterwards. And so, I mean, it was really a win-win situation for the states and localities that have tried this. I mean, as I said, Florida has a statewide program that has benefited now tens of thousands of children, and I think we really need to be replicating that model across the country.
All right, and talk about, Silas, some of the people that you knew and grew up with who did not have your opportunity. Obviously, I'm sure there are a lot of horror stories that you could sit there and tell us, correct?
Well, I mean, not so much. We were very much involved in our church communities and our school communities, and the neighborhood that we lived in, though it was zoned for some of the worst public schools in the city, was actually a very nice neighborhood. So I wasn't right in the thick of a lot of the turmoil that a lot of the inner city students around the country have faced.
Right, some of the other students that I interviewed really, had a lot of stories about, growing up in crime-ridden neighborhoods. Drug deals were going on the corner right around from school. They didn't feel safe in their public schools. That's one of the things that's really, I think, not talked about enough. Many parents simply want their kids out of inner city public schools because they don't feel like their children are safe during the day. The number of incidents of violence and crime that is going on inside the school walls, I mean, the metal detectors don't even begin to tell the story of what is going on in some of these schools. So I think, really private school scholarships, are definitely part of the answer here to helping parents feel like they can send their kids off to a safe environment during the day.
And we've had the head of the Archdiocese for schools here in New York State on this program. Catholic schools, which have done so much good and so much wonderful work for so many children, they're in dire need now of help themselves.
No, absolutely. I mean, you have a lot of schools where they are simply, I mean, parents can only, in these situations, can only pay so much. And even a few $100s, I mean, they are working so hard to just contribute that much money. But the Catholic schools are educating kids at a far, lower cost than the New York City public schools, for instance. And yet, they have a lot of empty seats. And it's time that we, help them financially to make sure that those structures, those schools that have been there for over 100 years serving many immigrant communities can continue to serve in that role. And certainly the vouchers and the tax credits that you talked about and write about would certainly go a long way in doing that, correct? Absolutely, and it is shameful that New York did not manage to pass the tax credit program this year, and one can only hope that things improve for next year. You think teachers unions play a big part in all this and the problem? Oh, absolutely. They play a huge part in it. I mean, they have, you know, an interest in the status quo, and they see, you know, the problem with the unions is, you know, their interests are not aligned with the children. The unions see public schools as a jobs program for adults, not a program to educate our children.
Absolutely correct. Naomi Schaefer-Riley is a New York Post columnist and author of Opportunity and Hope. Pick it up, be inspired, and learn. And we also thank Silas Farley, a scholarship recipient who's doing such great work now. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, nothing more important than educating our children. And one day we'll have the right kind of education reform, just not happening right now. We'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. If you're on Medicare and have knee pain, don't wait. You may qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost. Call the Health Hotline right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Friendly agents are standing by 24/7 to help you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. You may be eligible to receive these items and more at little or no cost to you as well. Call right now for details toll-free at 877-530-9847. Please remember this number, 877-530-9847. Our friendly representatives are standing by now to take your call. Please call us right now at 877-530-9847.
Acne is a difficult skin condition.
As dermatologists, we've seen how devastating it can be.
When we created Proactive, there is nothing like it. Take control now and help prevent future breakouts before they start. That's what Proactive means.
Now we've taken it to a whole new level. New technology, more medicine, and nourishing skincare.
This is our best solution, loaded with everything you need to keep skin beautiful and luminous every day.
Welcome to the whole new world of Proactive Plus. Our exciting breakthrough combines smarter acne medicine with advanced skincare. Acne breakouts, dark marks, blotchy or irritated skin? All new Proactive Plus can give you complete control. It's our smartest, fastest, most effective solution ever.
I never thought my skin would look this good. It's just incredibly smooth. And now I have clear skin.
Other treatments can leave medicine on the skin, but our new Smart Target technology pulls medicine off the surface, putting 2 times more into pores where acne starts. And with Proactive Moisture Care, your skin is nurtured to a touchable, soft finish.
It makes your skin feel so smooth, so soft. It feels so good.
Prescriptions can cost you hundreds. But call in the next 4 minutes and get new Proactive Plus, not for $200, not even $100, but just $29.95. And today, shipping is free. Clear your breakouts and perfect your complexion.
So many of my patients struggle with big pores or dry skin or oily skin. With Proactive Plus, now you can have both clear and radiant skin.
I never did think my skin could look this good. It's actually really exciting.
Hurry, act fast for a free deluxe upgrade to also get 3 new skin perfecting extras at no additional charge. Call 1-800-358-9166 and get all this for just $29.95. And shipping is free. Results guaranteed or your money back. 1-800-358-9166.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Republican leaders are calling on President Obama to take a stand on the crisis that's crippling states along the U.S.-Mexican border. House Speaker John Boehner wrote a stinging letter to Mr. Obama saying his inaction is making the crisis worse. Boehner says it's easy to see why Congress doesn't make progress on immigration, especially when the nation's leader won't take a definitive stance himself. Boehner's message to Obama reads, "In your letter to Congress on June 30th, 2014, you said you supported providing the DHS Secretary additional authority to exercise discretion in processing the return and removal of unaccompanied minor children from countries like Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. But on July 9th, President Obama asked Congress for more flexibility to move migrants through the system faster. Reports say the total number of illegals crossing into America may top 100,000 by the end of the year. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Broadcasting live from...
What do you got? A light there? flashlight match.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Well, I think it's even more basic than that, I'm really sorry to say. I think there's just a certain amount of Jew hatred in the media, especially in the elite media, that cannot be overcome or explained away. There's just the media in this country for a very long time has been contemptuous of Jews and contemptuous of Jewish life. And this was true during the Holocaust, when the media was largely controlled by old-line, wealthy, white Protestant males. And it's true now when it's controlled mostly by left-wingers. So there's just, we've moved from right-wing anti-Semitism to left-wing anti-Semitism. And, of course, they try to pretend it's not anti-Semitism, it's really anti-Israel. But it's really anti-Semitism.
All right, folks, welcome back. That was Ben Stein yesterday on this show. Making a very serious charge, and I don't know how blanket a charge he was making, but I will say that without making a blanket Jew-hating accusation against the media, I think Ben Stein is right on target. You just look at the coverage, and it's the coverage of this event, this war that Israel's involved in, and the coverage of the last one, and the coverage of the one before it, and the coverage of the one before that. And the media, you look at people with little children who live in this country. You know, like Erin Burnett comes to mind, just had a baby, okay? And to hear the question she asks, and she's not alone. I mean, I could pick out any one of a dozen. Don Lemon yesterday on CNN. Alan Dershowitz was on a panel, which was ridiculous. They had like 6 people. What do you need Alan Dershowitz if you got 6 people? You put Alan Dershowitz on with one other or to talk. And when they weren't interrupting him, Alan Dershowitz quoted from a Hamas leader. Talking about how we will use, and this goes back a ways, how we will use our children and our women as human shields, blah, blah, blah. And Don Lemon interrupts, says, are you saying Palestinians want to use their kids as human shields? You've just offended everyone in my audience. I mean, do these people have a brain? Are they uneducated? Or is it a bias? Is it anti-Semitism? Which they could disguise by claiming I have nothing against Jews. It's big bad Israel that I don't particularly like. You know, we're anti-Zionist. We're not anti-Semitic. You've heard that over and over and over again. We have nothing against Jews. It's just Israel we don't like. Well, that's old and that's tired. And I'm not accusing Don Lemon of that. But he was totally disrespectful to Alan Dershowitz last night and to his audience, but that's not new for him. But it's systemic within the media. So Ben Stein, yes, has a very valid point without making a blanket statement. Okay, folks, we will be back, but first, this hour is America's Moment. Takes a look back at the integration of schools in Little Rock, Arkansas back in 1967.
The 1954 U.S. Supreme Court's decision, Brown versus the Board of Education, declared all laws establishing segregated schools to be unconstitutional. As with the majority of southern cities, Little Rock, Arkansas's Board of Education agreed to comply with the court's ruling. However, Arkansas's Governor Orville Faubus had other ideas.
Units of the National Guard have been and are now being mobilized with the mission to maintain or restore the peace and good order of this community.
President Eisenhower was so disturbed by the governor's decision to completely ignore federal law, he cut short his vacation and returned to the White House to address the nation.
The president's responsibility is inescapable. In accordance with that responsibility, I have today issued an executive order directing the use of troops under federal authority to aid in the execution of federal law at Little Rock, Arkansas.
At the center of the controversy were 9 black students selected by the Little Rock School Board to attend the then all-white Central High School. One of the students, Elizabeth Eckford, arrived at the school separately and found herself confronting an angry crowd of students and bystanders. Suddenly, out of that crowd, as seen here, an older white woman came to her rescue and guided her safely to a bus. Even after the 9 students were admitted to Central High, the year that followed found them being subjected to taunts and abuses, both verbal and physical, by student and parent alike.
Well, I think like if a Spanish or a Chinese person came here, it wouldn't be hard to get along with them. It's just that the Negroes are what you might say more different to us than a Spanish person might be.
However, with the admittance of those brave students on the 25th day of September, 1957.
Meet Mary. She loves to shop online with her debit card. And so does Bill, an identity thief who stole Mary's identity, took over her bank accounts, and stole her hard-earned money. Unfortunately, millions of Americans just like you learn all it may take is a little misplaced information to wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Mary had LifeLock's bank account alerts, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. LifeLock has the most comprehensive identity theft protection available, guarding your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
My years as a prosecutor taught me that we all need to protect ourselves from crime. In today's world, that includes identity theft. It's a serious problem. We all have to protect ourselves.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one works harder to protect you than LifeLock. You even get a $1 million service guarantee. That's security no one can beat. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and get 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. That's right, 60 days risk-free. Use promo code NOTME. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free. Don't wait until you become the next victim. Call 1-800-918-3128 for 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Use promo code NOTME. Call 1-800-918-3128 now.
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedoms, our Constitution, and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. If you were with us yesterday, you know we covered very much the split decisions regarding Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, and it revolved around the subsidies that are given to many Americans who have Obamacare, and that's how they pay for it in part. One court saying it was illegal, another court saying it was okay, based on a loose interpretation of the legislation. Joining us now to talk about that, two fine guests, Dr. Jane Orient, and she's the director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons and author of Sapphira's Arts and Science of Bedside Diagnosis, and Dr. Betsy McCoy, who is the former Lieutenant Governor of the state of New York and author of Beating Obamacare 2014. Welcome to both doctors.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you, and it's good to be with Jane as well.
Okay, that was obviously Betsy McCoy. Okay, let's start with you, Betsy, and let's talk about what these split rulings mean for the future of this issue of subsidies in Obamacare.
Well, first of all, the ruling by the Federal Appeals Court for the D.C. Circuit is by far the most important. That is the second most important court in the nation, far more prestigious than the Federal Appeals Court in Virginia that issued a contrary ruling the same day. what the D.C. Circuit said was this. The actual text, the actual words printed in the Affordable Care Act say that only state exchanges can provide subsidies to make the Unaffordable Care Act affordable by reducing what people have to pay to get one of those plans. The letter of the law says only state exchanges can issue those subsidies. Well, it turns out that only 14 states set up state exchanges. So for 2/3 of the nation, those subsidies provided to make the Obamacare plans cost less were illegal. And let me give you an example of what the difference is. 87% of people, nearly everybody who bought a plan, got a subsidy. And in general, on average, the subsidy paid for 76% of the plan. So if you're not eligible for a subsidy, you're going to be paying 4 times as much next year. It's quadrupling the premium.
Yeah.
So there's a lot at stake here. People won't be able to afford it. They'll leave these Obamacare plans, and you'll have what the insurance industry calls a death spiral, where only the very sick people who can't leave their plan
will stay.
Yeah. They're the very costly ones, and everybody else will leave.
Dr. Orient?
That's exactly right, but I don't think you should call this a loose interpretation. It changes the word state into whatever. If it's a federal exchange or a state exchange, you still get the subsidy. And keep in mind that the subsidy is making somebody else pay for those plans.
Sure.
And moreover, if any employee goes to one of these plans and gets a subsidy, then the business that he works for is subject to huge penalties. So it's not just that people will lose their subsidies, it's that businesses will be freed from the part of the huge draconian penalties for the employer mandate.
And what I meant by
the really important part that hasn't been covered too much, that this puts for all practical purposes, if the ruling is upheld at the Supreme Court, where it will be headed, then that would put an end to the employer mandate as well. There's another really important point here, and Jane put her finger on it, and that is that this ruling says, in the United States of America, the rule of law is king, not Mr. Obama. His job is to implement the law, not rewrite it.
Right. Well, of course, he's rewritten it several times on other issues aside from the subsidies here. But let me quote to both of you and start with Dr. Orient. President Obama's old Harvard law professor, Lawrence Tribe, who of course we all know, said, quote, that he wouldn't bet the family farm on Obamacare surviving the legal challenges to the IRS rule about who's eligible for the subsidies. This was prior to the court rulings yesterday. He said, I don't have a crystal ball, he told the Fiscal Times, but he said, I wouldn't bet the family farm on this coming out in a way that preserves Obamacare. So assuming that this is expedited to the Supreme Court, and it'll get there eventually, whether it's expedited or not, Dr. Orient, and based on what I meant by loose interpretation was, yeah, basically changing, saying they interpreted what they believed the spirit of the law was as opposed to what it said, and couple that with the fact that the D.C. Circuit does have much more weight, as Dr. McCoy alluded to. How do you see this working out? Do you agree with Lawrence Tribe?
I certainly hope that he's right. Somebody's counted up the number of times that Obama has rewritten the law. Kind of reminds you of King John, who just before he signed the Magna Carta said, the law is in my mouth. That he's interpreting it to mean what he thinks it ought to mean, or what it should mean, or what he can get away with it meaning. And I think that if the subsidies go down, the plan probably will too, because as Dr. McCoy pointed out, that's the only thing that makes this affordable to the people who are getting them. And people who aren't getting them are just declining to participate.
That's right. The fact is the average person buying an Obamacare plan on an exchange is only paying 24% of the actual cost.
Yeah. And by the way,
taxpayers are paying the rest. I would not bet that Chief Justice John Roberts saves Obamacare again, because the issue here is the clear language of the law. And twice in recent months, Steve, the Supreme Court has emphatically declared that the executive branch must execute the laws, not rewrite them. So the Supreme Court is poised to enforce that basic constitutional principle again.
Yeah, and you know, to both of you, we've had a report today from FoxNews.com about fraud when it comes to people, how they get their policies and the subsidies that they're receiving. That's a whole nother issue, but I don't want anybody out there to start thinking that aside from this issue, well, you know, Obamacare is doing pretty well. In fact, the numbers that they had hoped for have never been attained. Most of these people that have insurance lost their insurance and had to get other forms of insurance. They're not first-timers who are so enamored with Obamacare that they couldn't wait to sign up. So this is still, and the premiums are going up, and doctors are dropping out, as Dr. Orient, you've written about, that this was going to happen. It's happening, and this whole thing is still a mess.
Well, if you make it much more expensive and onerous to practice medicine, then why do you expect that people are going to continue to do it? Doctors are closing their private practices in droves. Many of them are going to be employed by hospitals, which means they will be much less productive, and they won't be working for the patients anymore. They'll be working for the person who writes their check.
Right. Yeah. And of course, just to get to the real point of this decision, the practical implications, if it's upheld on appeal, it will quadruple the price of Obamacare plans for at least 2/3 of the nation. And that will cause the death spiral that everyone has been very apprehensive about.
And what about, let's talk a little bit about, you know, we haven't heard the term death panels in a long time. It was several months ago that Mark Halperin did allude to, did agree with me that there are death panels. He never said the words, and then after, when he caught heat from the left, he said, well, I never said death panels, but I was talking about it. He said yes, so he might as well have said it. But they're out there, and, you know, more and more we see, and tell me if you think this is related, more and more we see recommendations from, I don't know exactly the panels, but the American Cancer Society never signs on to it. But all of a sudden, women don't need mammograms as often. Men don't need PSA tests. Is this all part of the effort to save money, do you think, Dr. Orient?
Well, it's part of the plan to reduce the government's cost. After all, the government is bankrupt. But it's worse than death panels, really. A death panel means you've got a tribunal of identifiable people that you can meet with, maybe, but they're turning doctors into death panels by saying, we're going to put a cap on how much money can be spent, and if you go over that cap, you're not going to be able to practice anymore, or you'll be fined or punished, or
the money will come out of your own pocket at the end of the year. How about that as a disincentive to be able to do the right thing for your patient?
Yeah, exactly that. So physicians, to survive, are going to be doing less. And hospitals, if they can't get paid for readmitting a patient, they may send him to hospice, because after all, if the patient dies, he can't be readmitted.
Yeah, all right. Not a good situation. Thank you both for talking about it all, and certainly we'll be coming back to both of you, Dr. Betsy McCoy and Dr. Orient, as we get the, Dr. Jane Orient, as we get the court to take this case, and as Obamacare keeps, you know, keeps going forward as the disaster that it is. Thank you both for joining us.
Congratulations to you on your radio show. You are really a national asset.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Doctor. All right, guys. We're coming back, by the way. By the way, the sooner the Supreme Court gets this and decides on these subsidies, the better, obviously. And it could be, you know, a matter of them getting it in the next court session. And I'd be surprised, quite frankly, if they did not. And I'd be surprised if the D.C. court was not upheld in their decision as opposed to the Fourth Circuit, because, as we alluded to in the interview, I just think the interpretation and the reasoning given by the Fourth Circuit that this is constitutional and legal is just they're putting in their own 2 cents on how the law should be interpreted and what they believe it should mean. But again, this is a Supreme Court that has said the president cannot change the law. You got to follow what is written. All right, we're coming back. Gimme 5 is next. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Are you ready to take it all off this summer?
I took it all off, and I'm glad I did. 35 pounds gone.
If you said that I could get in a bathing suit again, I'd say you're crazy. But I did it.
There's still time to look hot and feel great this summer. And now, lose your first 5 pounds fast with a Fast 5 from Nutrisystem.
I've lost 40.5 pounds on Nutrisystem, and I feel fabulous.
You'll lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I'm Erin, and I lost 30 pounds.
Order your 28-day My Way plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of amazing craving crusher shakes, 1 week of delicious meals, all free. And the best news, call in the next 4 minutes and you'll also get the all-new smoothies, absolutely free. Millions of people have lost weight with Nutrisystem, and now you can too. Time is running out. Call now and get all this, plus 1 week of smoothies free. Don't wait.
Call 877-295-SIZE and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so Politico reports that Barack Obama was at a fundraiser last night, and this is one of the things he said. Let's put it up on the screen. It's a very simple quote. Whatever they're reporting, talking about how he usually doesn't watch TV news, because he says, whatever they're reporting about, I usually know. This was in Seattle. Now get that. Whatever they're reporting about, I usually know. Remember that? Okay. Now, Jon Stewart had some fun with this, but in advance of this, in other words, Obama said this yesterday, but several weeks ago, here was Jon Stewart proving quite the opposite.
When did you first learn that the IRS was targeting conservative political groups? Do you feel that the IRS has betrayed the public's trust, and what do you think the repercussions for these actions should be?
All right, so that's just one question on the IRS scandal, and come on, you know what he's going to say, right? You know what he's going to say. The antithesis of what he actually said last night. Watch.
Mr. President, when did you find out about the IRS targeting conservative groups?
I first learned about it from the same news reports that I think most people learned about this. I think it was on Friday.
Nobody at the office thought to run that one up the flagpole for you prior to the news reporting it? Let's say the acting head of the IRS, who has known about it for about a year. Actually, my favorite part of that soundbite was, I think it was on Friday, I think.
Okay, so there he is, the man who said, I don't watch news because most of what they're reporting I already know. Wow, that's great. Boy, you're a smart man. IRS scandal, when'd you find out? I found out about it with everybody else on TV Friday. Next.
What was that day I found out that incredibly powerful arm of the government may be using its power for coercive political purposes? Let's see, that was, the beer summit with Reverend Wright and Bill Ayers was on Wednesday, and then Thursday was spent listening into Americans' phone calls and randomly firing drone missiles. Where was I when I heard the IRS news? I was at the mosque praying, so yeah, Friday. I think it was Friday.
Wow, I was at the mosque praying. You know, hey, somebody said something about Hillary Clinton yesterday on The View, which I'm not going to go there either. As long as you're, I guess, liberal enough, you could say anything you want and nobody bats an eye. So anyway, but there's more. Let's go back to October 12, 2011, and our well-informed president said this.
I can buy that nobody in the administration thought to mention this issue to the president. It's a slight oversight. It never happened before.
I heard on the news about this story that Fast and Furious.
Well, it happened one other time with the Fast and Furious failed gun tracking operation where someone in the ATF decided to let straw purchasers bring automatic weapons into Mexico to see where they ended up while forgetting to find out where they ended up.
It was something we found out about along with all of you.
And that other time when Air Force One did an unannounced post 9/11 Lower Manhattan Statue of Liberty flyover for this sweet photo op that in no way could have just been photoshopped, saving Lower Manhattanites a good deal of trauma-related diarrhea.
Okay, so you have all these scandal after scandal. Obama claims, hey, I just saw it on the news, like you. Yet, he's in Seattle last night at a big fundraiser, and he says, I don't watch the news, which I don't believe at all. I believe he's obsessed with what they say about him. Because I know just about everything they're reporting on anyway, which he should. But here he's proving he didn't find out about it until the news told him. Scandal after scandal. Which led Jon Stewart to this conclusion.
We don't have any independent knowledge of that. He found out about the news reports yesterday on the road.
And yesterday's news that the Department of Justice had seized 2 months of phone records from AP reporters. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if President Obama learned Osama bin Laden had been killed when he saw himself announcing it on television. Oh, wow, we did that? Why doesn't anyone tell me these things?
Yeah, you got to give credit where credit is due, because this is really outrageous. Can we go back and put up that original graphic, the statement? Because I want to come full circle here, talking about why he doesn't usually watch the news. Whatever they're reporting about, I usually know, according to Politico, is what Obama said yesterday. To which I got to say, yeah, right. All right, folks. Thanks for giving me 5. Stay tuned now for your Newsmax Now update right after this.